All right. I believe we are live. What is going on, everybody? This is Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another episode of the Xbox 2 podcast. And as always, my co host is here, but he's not in Germany. He's in the UK, which is the reason why we're doing the show on a Saturday instead of a Friday. What's going on, Jez?
Hey man, yep, I traveled back to the UK, so traveling was on Friday, so I couldn't podcast yesterday. I mean, I could have done, but it wouldn't have been a good show. I was pretty dead yesterday. I was so dead that I slept for 12 hours yesterday. Do you remember the last time I slept for 12 hours? Probably like a year ago. So I man, it's so weird to know what it feels like to have actually had a decent night's sleep. Yeah, I feel great, and we've got some cool stuff to talk about. A lot of interesting things happened this week. Not a huge amount of news, I guess, but the whole Perfect Dark thing. We're going to get into that.
Right.
Played a lot of games this week, and I'm looking forward to it. So, how you been, man? You been alright?
I've been actually pretty good. So we're doing the show Saturday because you were flying. So why are you skipping and going back and forth? Why are you in Germany, back in the UK? What's going on?
Well, I got some health problems, man.
Okay.
And my health insurance is like, I just prefer to use an English doctor. So
Understandable.
In case I can't communicate, so that's the main reason I came back so soon. But once I get that sorted out, I'll go back to Germany most likely.
So how long are you in the UK for then?
I have no idea. Depends what's going on with me. It's these stomach issues, man. Like I talked about them before. Like there's stomach issues for like a whole year on and off. No doctor can figure out what's wrong with it. It's driving me up the wall. It's really annoying. But hopefully I can get it figured out and get it sorted. And hopefully I'm not dying because you'll be the Xbox One podcast. In that instance.
To most people, this is already the Xbox One podcast. To most people, this is Jez's podcast. And I'm just kind of
don't be silly.
I mean, I don't know. I've seen people say like, "Hey, let's tune into Jez's show," and oh yeah, that guy Rand is there, right? Or essentially Jez being called the dad of Xbox by Mr. Matty Plays.
That's just because he's like 16 years old. Everyone's a dad to him.
True. Well, we have a bunch of people.
If I'm the dad, that means you're the granddad, right?
I guess that means I'm the mother, as you said, which is I've accepted my position as the chopped liver of Xbox. You know, that when people think of the Xbox 2, it's Jez Corden's podcast, right? I'm just a footnote. Ridiculous. I'm just a footnote in all this. Like, even though the podcast is my channel, it doesn't matter that it's on my channel. I am just a footnote in the history of the Xbox 2. People will remember when they talk about this show 5 years from now and all the things we talked about and all the leaks that you've given and other things that we had gotten right. But like, man, wasn't Jez's podcast really good? And who was the person he did it with? I don't know. Who cares? Randall something or other. Randall Chop Liver. What does it matter? It's all about Jez Corden. You know, you even saw tweets saying that, like, I listen to the show because Jez's voice is so soothing. Right? You know, you never see tweets like that towards me.
Well, that's because you sound like this.
Oh, here we go with Jez's.
You got your American accent going on. Nothing can break the dulcet tones of the British accent, right?
Yeah, that's true. That is definitely true. I guess the YouTube implemented a new feature where people can, obviously they had the whole member feature where people can join and support. But one of the things that Twitch had over it was like every month people can basically show like, hey, I've resubscribed or whatever, and YouTube wasn't doing that. But it seems that YouTube is not doing that because we have a bunch of people in the chat being like, hey, I'm, here for 7 months. Like Space Tovakin's been a member for 7 months, and he says the best Xbox podcast around. Hustle and Motivate. Aaron, he says, I love your show so much. This 12 months has been fantastic. And his gamer tag is Flowing Jaguar 49 on Xbox. He's been a member for 12 months. Flame has been a member for 4, saying, hello, Rand and Jez, let's have a jolly good show. So that's interesting, because that's one of the things I actually gave feedback on towards YouTube, was like, you need to do some of this more cool, more stuff that Twitch does really well. So
Yeah, I like YouTube. I prefer YouTube as a community. Like Twitch's community seems absolutely horrible. Frankly. But man, there's no competition about which service has better features. Twitch has much better features than YouTube, but they are slowly catching up, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely are. Narrow says, "Hey, tell us some leaks now." That's the other thing. Like
now,
they want leaks right now, Jez. They're not satiated.
Right this
like
very minute.
They're not satiated, right? Like you released an article last week, literally a week ago, being like, "This is Project Cobalt and this is Project Indus," right? And people are like, "That's awesome." Now they want even more. They want even more stuff leaked, Jez.
I want more stuff, man. You guys are trying to kill me. But maybe there'll be some more stuff very soon, next week, maybe.
Ooh,
who knows?
Interesting.
Who knows?
Interesting.
Who knows what could happen? Who knows what the future will bring?
You know what the future didn't bring, though?
Patience. What didn't it bring?
I don't know about you, but I had a blast celebrating Xbox's acquisition of Take-Two and Warner Brothers this week.
Oh, that whole thing. Yeah, what happened with that run?
Yeah, I don't know what did happen with that. I thought for sure it was so weird because like leading up to this week, last week everybody was sure there was something that was going to be announced this week. Some major acquisition. You showed me DMs where people were like, "Jez, this is actually happening Monday at 2 p.m. Mark it down on your calendar for sure. 100% happening."
Oh, no.
Right? For people trying to whatever. And it's just like, Jesus, what? Right? And what did happen? Absolutely nothing happened. Just like we kind of said there. Acquisitions are going to happen at some point in the future. And nobody's going to know about it. They'll just pop down on a Monday. You'll just open up Twitter and you'll see something about Xbox doing whatever. You're not going to see every single Tom, Dick, and Harry on Twitter tweet out some, emojis, like eye emojis and be like, wonder what Xbox is up to, right? Trying to pretend that they know some things. Like, just, honestly, the whole acquisition talk is just, it's boring now. It's just boring. People bring it up all the time. Like, we can discuss things when they actually do happen, but like, I don't know. Like, I'm so happy that we went from 0 to 100 last week about everything, and we're back down to 0 now. Nobody even talks like that it actually was something happening the previous week, right? Because Jez, I mean, how many people did you get DMs from saying, "I know this is real and happening"? Because I got quite a few. Where are those people now? Nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
Running away, saying like, "Oh, I guess it was delayed." You're like, shut up, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if like people are trolling or they're just really excited or whatever. I mean, I tweeted some side eyes the other day because I got some documents in that were very interesting, and I was thinking, oh, that's pretty cool. And then everyone was like, "Oh my god, acquisitions!" I was like, "Oh no, it's not acquisitions. Stop this." So the acquisition talk has reached fever pitch, but I think there will be obviously acquisitions in the future, and Microsoft themselves have said there will be. They just have to make sense for everyone involved, and it takes time for the stars to align, my friend.
Yeah, it definitely does. But I said that in one of the Discords I'm in today, and I'm just like, isn't it funny? Last week was like literally everybody's talking about acquisitions, and this week it was barely a peep and nothing happened. It's like, but people were like putting tweets together, like, well, this person tweeted out this, and this person tweeted out this, and you combine it with these two tweets that these people made a month ago. Something for sure is happening this week. It's like, and then you had the websites run with it, comicbook.com, Game Rant, the ones that have like high volume but like low traffic, just clickbaiting the hell out of it, which basically feeds back into the whole hype cycle. Because then they see articles from these websites and are like, well, something's got to be happening. Like, they wouldn't write these articles if it weren't true. And it's like, oh, my sweet summer child. Oh man, you really don't know what's going on. They're gonna write articles literally about anything, you know.
I get it though. It's fun to think about the future. It's fun to think about the possibilities. It's fun to think about like dormant IP that could be revived with Microsoft's money. I think that's like the most interesting aspect of it. Like people talk about Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid because those IPs are amazing, they're beloved and they're nostalgic, and Konami's got them sitting in a locker somewhere doing nothing. Like it'd be great if some company, any company, PlayStation, Nintendo, anyone could acquire Konami and get the ball rolling on a new, Castlevania game or a new Metal Gear Solid or whatever, and Silent Hill. And it's fun to imagine the possibilities, but unfortunately, a lot of the time they are just possibilities, and we sort of have to learn to balance our excitement and intrigue with a cold, hard dose of reality sometimes. And
that is definitely true. Well. While everybody is still piling in for the show, we appreciate everyone being here on this Saturday. Could you do us a favor? Make sure you hit that like button and share this out on social media and subscribe if you're new. Aaron in the super chat says, for Jez's tum tum, feel better, lovely. So Aaron wants you to feel better. Morgan says, my uncle works at Nintendo and said Microsoft is buying Budweiser, guys. Trust me. You have no idea, Morgan, how many DMs I get, and Jez can attest to this too, because he gets them as well, where people will say something's happening and they know it, and I ask for a source, and they'll be like, just trust me, bro. Just trust me. It's like, okay, and guess what? Usually whatever they say never happens, and I never DM them back, to be like, so you were wrong, because it's just people trying to like, I don't know, maybe they think I'll say something about what they said in a tweet or a video or something to get their 10 minutes of internet fame or something. But honestly, like, Jez, I mean, you get this all the time, right? People pretending to know something and then they don't. And then do you ever DM them back and be like, so about what you said you knew for sure was happening, what happened? Or do you just like delete it?
I just leave it. It's, so sometimes I think a lot of these people actually mean well, and they're the ones getting trolled.
Possible.
I think possible. I think that's what's going on a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Michael says, Rand, you made an interesting point in your last video speculating on the possibility of bringing Crystal Dynamics into the fold, despite how unusual the partnership is. Yeah, the one of the obviously biggest focuses of today's show, because not really much happened this week, is going to be talking about Perfect Dark Crystal Dynamics initiative, and the tweet that set the internet like on fire on Thursday. Because there's definitely like a couple camps. You have a camp A being that like, this is further proof that Xbox doesn't know how to handle their studios and Phil Spencer needs to get the F out, right? This is just more pure incompetence by Xbox. Why does anybody like them? Perfect Dark is going to be horrible. Ha ha ha. The Initiative Quadruple A studio, they can't even finish their own game right. You have all that stuff. And then you have other people who are like, hey, this seems kind of interesting. It seems like sort of like something that may have been planned from the get-go. I mean, Daryl Gallagher was the head of Crystal Dynamics for like 8 years before he came to Xbox. Maybe he just, had his friends come over and help, and, this was something that was in the works. And then there's people like, man, isn't the bigger story here on Square's side? Which me and Jez will definitely talk about in length later on in the video, so in the podcast. So, yeah, make sure you hit the like button, because there might be some spicy takes, because Jez definitely had one on Twitter. I definitely had some DMs and some people saying, like, I thought Jez knew what was going on at Xbox, but he's just fanning the flames of fanboyism and getting the Sony PlayStation guys up in arms, saying, yeah, Jez... You tell him, like, I actually had people tell me that, like, you should know better, Jez.
Who said that?
I'll tell you after the show.
At me, cowards.
Yeah. So, yeah, we definitely have a lot to say about that. But you said you've been playing a lot of games. I know you were super interested in the Castlevania game. I did see you playing that. What do you how you feeling about the Castlevania stuff?
Yeah, I haven't really played a huge amount of Castlevania. I played Symphony of the Night, the PlayStation 1 port to the Xbox 360. Man, what the hell? Hang on a sec. Something is going. Oh, that's interesting. Sorry about that. I literally tweeted a minute ago. I hate customer service bots. I don't know if you saw that tweet.
Yes, I did see that tweet. Did a custom service bot just tweet you back?
Yeah, a customer service bot just spammed me and spammed notification tones in my ear for like 5 minutes. Man, I might even write an article about how terrible customer service bots are next week. But anyway, I completely lost my trail of thought now. What was I talking about, Rand?
Castlevania?
What was that? Yeah,
so you're playing Castlevania?
Yeah, I played Symphony of the Night, which is the PlayStation 1 Castlevania, the classic that everyone talks about, because that was ported to 360 and then it came to Xbox backwards compatibility. So I played that. That's the only one I've really played. But I got the Castlevania Advanced Collection recently, and I don't know if you saw Konami re-released a bunch of the Game Boy Advanced Castlevania games, and I was surprised to find that they actually play pretty well. Like the graphics and a little bit dated. They go a little bit further than retro these games, but they play really well. Like, and I just reminded me how much I love the Castlevania as an IP, even though it's kind of dead at the moment. I've been watching Castlevania on Netflix as well. Pretty cool IP. But I've also. Are we talking about what we've been playing this week now?
Yeah.
Is that what this segment is?
Yeah, but essentially, because I saw you posting that you were playing Castlevania,
Yeah.
so I was like, all right, well, because we know you kind of dabble in a lot of things every single week. You're the way you game is completely different from the way I game. Right? I play one game at a time. You seem to play like 40 games at once. So
that Microsoft actually has a term for someone who games like me. They call us grazers, people who play lots of different random games here and there, and maybe don't complete a whole bunch. But yeah, I mean, part of it's research. Like, I want to see if there's a game I want to go deep on and want to really get into and stuff like that. But also part of it's just because there's so many games that hit Xbox, and because of Game Pass, it's so easy to just jump in and try loads of random different things. Been playing Tales of Iron quite a lot as well, which is sort of like a side-scrolling Souls-like. They call it Souls-like, but it's not really Souls-like. It just sort of has Souls-ish combat here and there. Although I don't really feel like it deserves to be called a Souls-like. It's like, have you seen it? Tales of Iron. It's like you play as a rat, and the enemies are like armies and armies of evil frogs. It's really violent, and it's hilarious. It's got like cool little sprite animations, and so yeah, I've been playing Tales of Iron a lot. Side-scrolling, sort of Metroidvania-ish kind of game, melee focused combat with cool bosses and stuff like that. Really enjoying that. I've also been playing Halo Infinite beta. Did the test yesterday.
The Lego game that you've been complaining about here on the podcast for the last 2 years. Yeah,
the Lego game.
The
Lego game. I am, thrilled to announce that it's not a Lego game this time.
Right.
It's upgraded. It's now a Lego Technic game, or I don't know, Connects or something like that. But I've been really enjoying Halo Infinite. I think it's probably gonna be my go-to shooter this year. I think between Battlefield and Halo, I used to play Overwatch a lot, and I got bored of Overwatch because it's pretty much dead now anyway. Blizzard's abandoned it.
Didn't the executive producer for the Overwatch 2 just leave as well?
Yeah, he did.
And the chief legal counsel just left as well, and the federal government is now has a case against Activision Blizzard. All these things happened recently, correct?
Yes. Overwatch lost its lead dev in Jeff Kaplan a while ago. One of the Blizzard OGs. He left the studio right before all this craziness blew up, and then the lead producer of Overwatch 2 left as well this week, and I just crazy what's going on at Blizzard. But with that in mind, I think like I've dropped off Overwatch, and looks like Halo Infinite could become my go-to shooter for the later this year, because I'm absolutely loving it. It just feels so damn good.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
it's so fun to play. It's I think like one thing that I always bugged me about Halo was the time to kill. Like it was just like, man, it feels like I'm shooting like a bullet sponge, a lot of the time. But I feel like the time to kill in Halo Infinite is satisfactory. I don't know if they've changed it or something, but it's not as bullet spongy as I remember Halo being. It actually feels like I can actually kill people if I shoot them in the head and stuff like that. And the weapons are really interesting and varied. The maps are really good. It's just
Yeah.
so,
The
feels so good.
the grapple hook really changes a lot of things, like the momentum and how you can get
Yeah.
around the map. I've seen some videos of people doing crazy stuff with the repulsor thing as well.
Yeah, I've
So
seen the repulsor. Yeah, I picked that up for the first time yesterday. The repulsor. I was like, "What the fuck is this? I don't know what the
it's
hell
a
it
thing that's
is." And
supposed to reflect
when
back
I
like shots, but it seems like it
yeah,
also pushes you away or like from walls. I've seen crazy videos. So
does it reflect rockets as
I
well?
don't know. I don't know. I haven't. So I wasn't really going to play much of Halo this week because it's really nothing new. Basically, everything that's going on right now was in the previous test flight,
Mm.
and I don't want to really get like play so much where like by the time the actual game comes out, like I'm burnt out on Halo, right? Because I see a lot of people who are like essentially no lifing Halo, getting to the point where like it's like I've seen a couple people being like, "Yeah, I'm bored of this already." It's like that's not something I want to happen, right? So like it's the same maps. I'm waiting for a new map. I think a new map drops on Sunday. I'll probably check it out then. But the big thing that that I'm looking forward to is next week, because they have this weekend where it's arena. You have the versus bot matches, which are always open, but then 2 times every single day, one in the morning and one at night. Matchmaking 4v4 opens up for 4 hours. So I think tonight it's 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Time,
Mm.
and you can play against real people. Um,
Mm.
Next week is where what I'm really interested in, that is Big Team Battle. The chaos of 12v12 with the tanks and the warthogs and the capture the
Yeah.
flag and all this stuff. That is what I really want to get my hands into. Like, I played enough of the test flight last week to know, okay, I like how this Halo plays. It's sublime. I never had any doubt with 343 in the multiplayer from the beginning anyways, because they nailed Halo 5's multiplayer. And this feels even better. So I think the concern that both me and you had, and a lot of people have, wasn't about the multiplayer. It was always about the single player and the campaign. I feel extremely confident in the multiplayer of this game, and I'm just waiting to play some big team battle because I think that's gonna be incredible. But the other thing, Jez, is
What was the Sorry, what was the big team battle called in 5? Wasn't it Warzone or something?
yeah, they had
Or was that
Warzone,
different?
and then I think Big Team Battle came later, if I'm not mistaken. But Halo, obviously, with it being free to play, is going to be a big thing. Being on PC is going to be huge day one. Game Pass, all that stuff. Xbox Series X consoles, Xbox One consoles, mobile streaming, right? But I think it also might be helped out for the fact that not a lot of people seem to be very into the new Call of Duty. People really don't seem to like Call of Duty Vanguard. I saw a bunch of videos on Twitter with the graphical glitches. I think people are just over the whole World War II setting at this point. So that might see a downturn. Obviously, like the big thing is Warzone, and that still might be good. And then how bad is Battlefield 42 in right now, right? That game has been delayed essentially 3 weeks. There's reports from the people who played like the alpha that it wasn't in a good spot and performed horribly. So is it possible that Battlefield and COD aren't up to stuff and Halo's going to be the king multiplayer game this fall, Jez? And that could help out the game, right?
Well, dude, that was the other game I've been playing this week. Is Call of Duty, the Call of Duty open beta, and I have like this on-off relationship with Call of Duty. I played Modern Warfare and World at War and Modern Warfare 2 to death. And Black Ops as well, the first Black Ops. I played those 4 Call of Duties to death, and I absolutely loved them. Like hundreds of hours across each game. World at War is probably my favorite Call of Duty of all time. And I know, like, I'm in the minority there because a lot of people don't like World at War, but I actually like the World War II setting. I prefer it. The problem is, this isn't a World War II setting, man. It's a Modern Warfare setting. You've got red dot sights, for God's sake. You've got laser things, and lasers weren't even invented. They weren't invented in World War II.
Were you the one who put out the tweet where, like, you killed somebody, but then he was doing damage over time with you with, like, fire bullets or something?
Yeah, for God's sake, man. Like, I was playing Call of Duty. I can't remember what it's called, Vanguard. And I was already irritated by it because it's still got those laggy ass peer-to-peer servers. It's still got this sort of weird thing where you die, it feels like you die instantly, and then you look at the kill cam. It's like they saw something different to what you saw because of the way the server technology is, i.e., bad. The server technology is bad. You know, after playing like games with real dedicated servers like Battlefield and Overwatch, it's just like I can't even handle Call of Duty because it just feels so bad. The server technology does, and like that was fine in 360 era, but it's not fine anymore. It's not fine anymore. But anyway, I was getting annoyed with that, and I was getting annoyed with the bugs, a lot of graphical glitches. There's a lot of like alpha channel issues, they call it, where like the edges of objects that should be transparent aren't properly transparent. So like your vision's blocked. They can fix that for launch. That's fine. But what they can't fix for launch is all the bullshit, like the fact that it's not really World War II. It's just, Modern Warfare with a World War II skin. It's like, there's all the Modern Warfare attachments, laser dot sights, lasers, and all incendiary bullets. What the hell, man? And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I killed a guy, headshotted him, whatever. But then I was like taking damage over time, and I just randomly died. There was no one else there, and I look at the kill cam, and on his screen, all it looks like is that I'm slowly dying, and I die. I look in the kill log, and it says I died to his gun, and I'm just like, what the hell is this bullshit, man? And then like people on Twitter are telling me that, oh, you got killed by incendiary bullets. Mm-hmm. Incendiary.
Didn't you know the incendiary bullets are what won World War II?
Yeah, a fucking incendiary bullet. So like, there's no counter for incendiary bullets. If you get hit with incendiary bullets, you die, which feels like amazingly bad design. And it just feels like an indie game. It feels like some indie company has decided to make a Call of Duty clone. That's what Call of Duty feels like these days. It's terrible, man. It's so bad. And I'm done. I'm done with that shit. So it's Halo Infinite. all steam ahead, man. Call of Duty is a dead franchise. It is dead franchise, man.
That is
for me.
That is
obviously it's not dead.
I mean, I think
millions of people don't care. They like the crap. Apparently,
sure. But I do think Call of Duty is going to have a downturn this year, though. It definitely seems like Vanguard is not being well received by a lot of people. So, hey, we got a super chat here from Achievement who says Xbox is already partnering with IO, who make a well-known spy game, plus are making 007. Seems like something got lost in translation to the initiative. Well, the game that they're partnering with IO isn't a spy game, though. So, Jez, you talked about Project Dragon at one point. I don't know what you said about it, so I'm not going to wait for you to say more about what Project Dragon is. But it's definitely not. It's definitely not a spy game. That's for sure.
No, I've already talked about what Dragon is. Call of Dragon.
Call of Dragon.
Project Dragon is not a spy game. Project Dragon is a full-blown medieval fantasy game with dragons, and it's apparently got a day and night cycle, and at night there's more monsters roaming around, and it's got online connected features. And I don't know if it's a full-blown MMO, but it's very much an online service kind of game or action RPG sort of feel with dragons. So that's what Project Dragon is. It's got nothing to do with spies. Maybe like, maybe people are getting mixed up with IO Interactive's James Bond project,
Yeah, and
because that's
that's
about spies.
yes, that's about a spy, but that's also a multi-plat game that they're working on. Face, he says the PS5 Kraken tech is doing wizardry. Latest patch for Watch Dogs Legion on PS5 is 3.2 gigs, and on the Series X it's 40.2 gigs. Can this be a problem for Xbox in the future? I would say potentially if the discrepancy is like that. Although that may have more to do with how Xbox updates its games than anything else. But I have seen recent examples of things being smaller on the PlayStation size-wise than on Xbox, like definitely bigger on the Xbox. I think the only thing that really affects is obviously the storage space, and storage isn't like 1 GB is not going to be enough for most people. I think some people will be fine. So I guess it really depends. Like if every game starts to be, hey, Watch Dogs Legions or Legion 2 is 20 gigs, but on Xbox it's 80 gigs, and there's like a discrepancy like that for like every title where it's like, it fills up faster on the Xbox, that could potentially be a problem in the future. But it might just be a problem. Actually, like maybe that'll help Xbox sell more, SSDs. Like the expensive stuff. Do you think that there might be a problem in the future, Des?
Sorry, can you just repeat that last part?
With the Kraken, like how patches in the games are smaller on PlayStation than they are on Xbox in some manner. Could that be a potential problem for Xbox in the future if it continues, where like every game is?
That's to do with the Sony's SSD speeds, right? Because they can decompress more quickly than Xbox, right? That's why they can have smaller speeds, because it's compressed with an algorithm and then it's decompressed really quickly. Xbox has its decompression technology as well, but I don't know to what extent it can beat Sony on that front. Maybe it is just a hardware thing.
What is it? Would it be a big deal if like every game was just 30 gigabytes more on Xbox than PlayStation? Is that something that somehow could be like talked about and like, well, this is bad news for Xbox because this game is 30 gigabytes more?
That it is an interesting conversation to have. I can certainly see it becoming a narrative. I can certainly see it becoming like oh man, Xbox, Xbox's file sizes are bigger or whatever. I can see it becoming a narrative. But once the game's installed, I don't really care. And then Xbox has the whole cloud streaming thing. Like soon you'll be able to stream a game before you've even finished installing it. So like installation speeds will be less of a big deal on Xbox because of that streaming technology. But like having storage space as well, that could become an issue, because potentially it's cheaper to get storage cards for PlayStation than it is to get them for Xbox right now, because Xbox has a proprietary Safe Express or whatever, and there's more competition for what kind of storage you can get on PlayStation. I haven't actually fully compared the prices yet. Maybe they're pretty similar. I don't know. But just that extra competition could help keep prices down on PlayStation. It could become an issue. I might talk to Microsoft and see what their plans are with direct storage and how that's going to go down. Because at the end of the day, if direct storage becomes a standard, and direct storage is coming to Windows 11, so that's going to be what PC games use, it could just be the case that direct storage becomes a standard for like decompression. I don't know. It's a little bit out of my knowledge range, but I'll investigate and see if I can get some answers on some of this stuff.
Aaron says Spider Chief. I actually did see that video that a bunch of people from 343 tweeted out, where somebody was like flying around one of the maps with the grapple hook set to Spider-Man music. Did you see that, Jez?
I didn't. I need to check that out. It sounds cool.
It was a really cool video. Flame says, off topic, but Jez, are you still playing Monster Hunter Stories 2? I fell off after the ice level. Just want to know if it gets better.
Actually, didn't even play Monster Stories 2 yet. My brother reviewed it, not me. So I actually don't know. I do plan to play it. It's on my list of games to play, but I'm kind of praying that it comes to Xbox at some point because I don't really want to play that on my PC. But I don't know. I sort of fell off with Monster Hunter a little bit after they skipped Xbox for 2 games. Um, but I will try it if it comes to Xbox. But I'm not in a big rush to play it because I've just got so damn much to play on my Xbox right now. I'm still trying to finish Pillars of Eternity. Like Rand, you were saying how you stick to one game for a long period of time until you've completed it. I do too. So my one game that I want to finish right now is Pillars of Eternity, but unfortunately, I keep having to play other games for reviews. Like I've started a new save in Wasteland 3 because I want to review the final DLC for it, and like that DLC unlocks like somewhere in the middle of the game. So I've started a new save on Wasteland 3, and then I'm gonna have to review Far Cry 6 as well. So that's gonna push back my ability to play Pillars even more. So it's my backlog just gets more and more big as time goes by, man.
Yeah, we have
there's some do this as kids?
Comments about the patches. Jose says PS5 patches don't need full RDNA 2 features. If they did, they would be closer to 40 gigs also. And a Furious One says Xbox Series X is bigger patches because the Series X gets bigger and better updates with more data. I don't know if that doesn't sound like something that's true. I mean, most of the time the games are just I don't know. The tech stuff isn't my bag. If you want more information about tech, Dealer Gaming's channel's much more knowledgeable than that stuff than I am. I mean, the question was if the sizes of the files were significantly smaller on PlayStation, could that pose a problem in the future? And it's like, well, maybe not. It depends on how many games. It depends on how big the discrepancy is, and a whole bunch of other scenarios. Yeah. But more than likely, it probably won't be. But you never know. Space Dovikin says, is Xbox even using direct storage? I don't know that, Jez. I think you were just talking about that, but
yeah, it's. I don't know if many games are using it right now. It's really hard to say. It's something I need to investigate to get a definitive answer on. And kind of like Rand says, Dealer probably knows more.
Yeah, I tend to stay away talking about tech stuff because I don't really know anything about it, and I don't want to potentially give out misinformation about it because people get really touchy when you talk about the tech and how PS5 stacks up against the Xbox and the teraflops and the clock speeds and what it can and can't do and stuff. Like, people get really in their feelings if you say something wrong about it. Don says Xbox has a compression solution with the BC pack, but it's not being used like Velocity architecture. And Michael says Edge Chromium recent release for Xbox. The Xbox can now be considered a work and school machine. Yeah, I did see that. That's actually one of the topics to talk about because Jez does everything with Xbox, and I really don't. So for me, is there any other game you wanted to talk about? I know you talked about Vanguard and you didn't like it. You're playing Castlevania. It's cool. I know, and you talk about how you play one game at a time. Yet you're probably going to mention, well, I've also been playing this game and this game and this game.
Yeah, there are a bunch of other games.
Yeah, there are a bunch of other games, of course.
Yeah, I mean they're mostly just indie games. Like I say, I try a lot of things because I'm sort of researching, looking for what to play next. I've downloaded Ender Lilies. I played Hades in the airport the other day via xCloud. I was in Frankfurt Airport, and they've got like the Wi-Fi speed was 16 megabytes down, and I was thinking there's no way I can play Hades on this, but I did. It was fine, worked really well. So I played Hades in the airport on my Galaxy Fold with the big screen. Really, really impressed with that. And I've also been playing Diablo II, Rand. Another game from Blizzard that's having issues right now. I don't know if you saw much about the issues with Diablo 2, but yeah. Server problems. They rebooted the servers. The game's pretty buggy. It runs like crap on resolution mode for Xbox. You would think that an isometric game would run really well on Xbox Series X, right? But seriously, it runs at sub 30 frames per second if you put it in 4K.
What, Diablo 2 does?
Yeah, it
no,
does.
No way.
Seriously. Seriously, it runs like crap. I'm looking for like if Digital Foundry do a deep dive on it, they'll tell you.
Even on the
Maybe there's been a day one
Series
patch.
X, it runs like crap. Even on the Series X.
Yeah, on the Series X, it runs like crap. On
Jeez.
4K mode.
Oh, in 4K.
You can put it in 4.
Yeah, but why would anybody want to play anything in 30 frames, Jez? I thought we were over the whole filmic nonsense.
Yeah, but still, it should at least hit 30 frames stable.
I agree with you on that.
When there's no enemies on screen, and it's 4K, it should hit 30 frames. I think, or maybe I'm just so used to 60 now that 30 frames just looks terrible to me. But it does 60 if you run it in blurry 1440p. But alas, it just doesn't feel well optimized at all. But the gameplay is good. It feels great. The environments are actually dark and gothic, unlike the colorful World of Warcraft-like setting of Diablo 3. So I really love the tone, but yeah, it's unoptimized and it's got all these server problems, which is par for the course with Blizzard right now. But it's very popular though, Rand. I can tell you what, our traffic for Diablo 2 is pretty damn insane right now. So yeah.
Nick says, "Do you even need 4K in Diablo 2?"
I mean, it's just the fact that it makes it feel unoptimized. Like, why even have 4K mode if it can't handle 4K 60? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's the first time for me playing Diablo 2. I never played the original. Didn't have a capable PC back in the day. So it's been interesting to play it as a newcomer, and it's really cool, man. Like I play Path of Exile. I don't know if you've ever played Path of Exile, but you can just tell how much Path of Exile wanted to be Diablo 2. Like, it just feels just like it. So, but yeah, I'm gonna get deeper into Diablo 2 because I am quite a Diablo fan, and Diablo is stacked with ex-Coalition staff at the moment. I don't know if you saw, but Josh Kerwin, who used to do marketing for Gears of War, is now doing publishing for Diablo, reunited with Rod Ferguson. So that's
interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe
Microsoft will just buy Blizzard one day.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I don't. That'd be interesting. Mike Ibarra leaves Xbox to go to Blizzard, and then Xbox just buys Blizzard. That'd be interesting reunion. Jeeves,
maybe that was the plan. Maybe they're all like Trojan horses,
Yeah, Rad Ferguson leaves only to come back. Yeah. Jason says it's 1:00 in the morning in India there, and we have no stock of the Xbox from first batch when it was released. IGN India contacted Microsoft, and they had no idea about stock. What's the case of the U.S.? I'm sorry to hear that there isn't a lot of stock in India at all outside of the first shipment. The stock here in the USA is obviously better than that, but it's not what I would consider the greatest. It's really tough to get Series X consoles. They sell out almost, within a few minutes. People were lining up at Best Buy to get Series X's and PS5s on Thursday. The chip shortage is just, it's a bad thing, especially for these in-demand consoles. And then, Microsoft was also using the Series X chips to put them in xCloud and stuff. So, but I wonder if Microsoft's more going to be focusing on xCloud in India rather than the consoles. What do you think, Jez?
I mean, I think there is infrastructure issues when it comes to xCloud in India and some other countries, but India is a very mobile-oriented market. Like PUBG Mobile is huge there, and so are the other mobile shooter games. So I do think xCloud is definitely something they want to push there, and then Microsoft is building data centers in that region. So I think ultimately they just want to offer both. They want to offer home consoles for people who want them, and they want to push xCloud for people who don't even want a TV. A lot of people don't even own a TV in some countries. They just have their phones and their tablets, which is, it's probably the way the world's going for a lot of people. I mean, TVs as a medium is sort of on the out in some ways. So, but again, the chip shortage, man. It's all about that chip shortage. And I was reading a report today that the chip shortage could continue all the way into 2023. As the global economy reawakens from COVID, It's creating all sorts of supply chain problems. Like the amount of destabilization to all sorts of supply chain things is having like a knock-on effect on everything, and obviously that's affecting the chip allocations. Like they can't get microchips for cars, they can't get them for medical equipment. It's not just consoles. It's crazy. It's really crazy out there. Europe and America are supposedly building new chip factories to try and solve this crisis sooner rather than later. But that's just the way it's going to be. It's going to be really hard to get consoles for anyone. Like I barely ever see stock of the Xbox Series X or the PS5 in the UK and Germany. Barely ever see stock. I went into a game shop in Germany the other day, and they had stock of the PS4 and the Xbox One, but no next gen consoles. Oh man, it's rough out there, man, for chips.
Yeah. It's rough right now. My Shakepeare is going absolutely crazy. I guess somebody's like literally right outside, and I can hear him all the way upstairs, like growling, like somebody's about to come into the house, and he wants to like rip him apart. That's the only good thing. Like he barks a lot, so obviously he wants to protect. I would imagine if someone unwarranted or unwanted actually came into the house, he would rip them apart. Just by how he acts when people walk by the house. He just like goes crazy. And I'm sorry that everybody can hear him. I try to mute my mic whenever it does happen.
I couldn't hear him.
Well, because I had my mic muted because he was going crazy. Because
okay.
I heard it and immediately muted the mic. But, what are you going to do? Live show, right? Professional podcast, as we always say, right? So Max says, random question. Do you think a new Skylanders will ever be made? What studio makes it and what are they up to? Yeah, Skylanders was big on the 360, another Activision game. I believe they were, let's see, who made those, Jez? Wasn't it like Toys for Bob's made some, and Beanox made some, and I want to say Vicarious Visions made some? I think the problem now is like all of Activision studios are working on Call of Duty games, right?
Yeah, it's wild, man. Like the amount of talent they've got in those teams, and they're just like flat out grinding to get like Call of Duty annualized, and you can see how bad it's hurt the quality of the franchise. Like year in, year out, the same crap. The fact that Call of Duty Vanguard has laser sights is to me, it's not a case of, oh, we're doing an alternative version of World War II. It's a case of they just wanted to reskin and reuse a bunch of assets. They couldn't be bothered to make sites that fit the period. They couldn't be bothered to make attachments that fit the period because they didn't have time. They had to rush this crap out with a year to spare. And it's pathetic. It's pathetic how desperate they are for money, this company. But that's all Activision is. It's a factory. They're not a game studio. It's a factory for shareholders.
Man, you definitely don't like Activision Blizzard anymore. I love it.
No, fuck them.
Ooh, man, you're gonna get me demonetized, man. This podcast gonna have that yellow symbol demonetized because Jez Corden's swearing too much. We just really
sorry, man.
Yeah,
sorry, man.
Dave Lopez says gameplay reveal for Avowed or Fable next year. And Flame says, Jez, I'll play Stories 2 with you on PC. I think there's a good chance you might see Avowed later in the year, maybe the VGAs. Maybe even like something like Hellblade 2 potentially. I think the VGAs could be big for Xbox. I don't know. Well, Fable next year. When do you think Fable's like scheduled to come? I know, like I think Jeff Grubb said 2023, but like it seems like every Xbox game is scheduled for 2023, and that's certainly not going to happen. I've always kind of thought Fable was 2024 in my head. So, I mean, they revealed it in 2020 a lot because, for multiple reasons, right? They needed to shut down the narrative that Xbox had no games, so they showed a whole bunch of games that they were working on, even though they were years out. And then two, they wanted to recruit. It's hard to get people to leave their job to go work for you when, you can't really tell them what you're working on. So, the Perfect Dark announcement, the Fable announcement, like all those CGI trailer announcements, like even like IO Interactive with like 007, a lot of those announcements that are just kind of like nothing announcements, just just like, why'd you even bother? There's nothing there. It's to show the game's coming, but also to like, it's like, hey, please come work for us. We're working on this game. Would you like to work on this game? Do you want to work on Wolverine? Do you want to work on Fable? Come work with us. I do think we might see Avowed and Hellblade 2 later in the year. What do you think, Jez?
I would pretty much bet money that we'll see Hellblade at least this year at the Game Awards. I'll bet money on it.
Bet money on it? So you're betting man here? You're betting money?
I'm a betting man.
All right, chat. Remember this. Jez Corden is saying he will bet money for sure that we will see Hellblade 2 this year. So whether that's at XO 2021, if they're doing one, which maybe they aren't, at a Xbox 20th anniversary, or the Video Game Awards, Jez Corden says you will see Hellblade 2 again. And I'm sure some website is now typing up the keys. Xbox Insider Jez Corden says
that, yeah.
Well, you know how this game is played, Jez. We've dealt with it I don't know how many times. It's just another way for the Xbox 2 podcast to be in the news, and says Jez Corden's Xbox 2 show says Hellblade 2 for sure this year. Hosted by who the hell cares, Randall Nobody. But really, Jez Corden is the one with the info.
Rip.
So, member chat, Jez says 100. Well, he said he'll bet money that it's happening. So,
I mean, plans can change, but right now, I will totally bet money. I'll bet. You know what? Fuck it. I'll bet $100.
Ooh.
I'll bet $100 to a charity. We'll say Special Effect in the UK, the gaming charity.
Mm-hmm.
I will see Hellblade this year.
And so who's betting against you though? Is anybody in chat betting against you? Because wouldn't you have somebody to bet? Or essentially, if it doesn't show up, you would have to pay $100 to charity then.
Well, I'll pay $100 either way to charity, I guess, because that's kind of mean now.
Okay.
I don't know, because it's kind of almost cheating, But nah, I just bet $100.
Right. Okay. I'll remember this. We'll revisit this topic again at the end of the year if Hellblade 2 is revealed or not. Jiva says, I think cloud gaming is not available in India. The cloud gaming on the Xbox app is not available. Our Xbox India Discord members are waiting as hell. So
for what? Sorry.
He says that cloud gaming is not available in India.
Isn't it on the roadmap?
It might be on the roadmap, and I don't know. But I'm just saying, Xbox wants to reach 3 billion gamers. You gotta reach out to these countries and get cloud gaming up there and sell your console, right?
It is in the roadmap. It's like, I think, like I said, there is infrastructural problems, but it is in the roadmap. So, I'll try and get an update about xCloud in India, because obviously that's a huge market and it's definitely one that they want to nail. I think it's just a matter of time and stuff.
Yeah. Michael says, hoping to see some gameplay of Halo with native ray tracing, considering that was one of the reasons they delayed it. They mentioned ray tracing and then they said they wouldn't be there at launch, and I don't think they've ever talked about ray tracing again. I'm sure somebody in the chat, if One Bad Mother's listening, or somebody who's been following the Halo Infinite dev updates and stuff, I'm not sure that they've really ever mentioned ray tracing since then. And I would not be surprised if Halo Infinite doesn't have ray tracing. I would bet that it won't launch with ray tracing for sure. And I think it may never have ray tracing.
You mean Halo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I do think I'm starting to feel that ray tracing was overhyped. It does sort of starting to feel that way. I noticed that some studios are using ray tracing for specific scenes. Do you remember in Gears of War 5 where there's a scene where Kate walks through an ice cave, and that ice cave has ray tracing, even on the Xbox One X, but it's just that cave, And then I remember in Psychonauts, there's a scene where Raz is on a boat, and the world is basically empty except for the water and the boat, and the water has ray tracing in that scene, but just that scene. So I feel that a lot of devs are deciding do we use ray tracing or do we get extra performance? And I think right now the choice is falling on performance, as it should be a lot of the time. I think like ray tracing will come. I think ray tracing will come more deeper into the gen when they figure out new ways and new algorithms that make it more efficient, and like the like AI processing for resolution and stuff like that. But I think like right now, it's not being implemented very well. Like I literally stopped playing Watch Dogs Legion when they added ray tracing to the Xbox Series X version because it made it look worse. I was like, I can't play this. It just looks like I'm playing white noise. It looks terrible. The cars look terrible. The water looked terrible. Everything in that game looked terrible when they added ray tracing. So I think like the consoles just can't really handle it very well for a lot of stuff. I think it's good to be used, you know, in limited capacity in specific scenes, but I think it isn't panning out the way it was hyped to be.
So I use ray tracing in Ratchet and Clank. They had a 60 frames mode. It was all right. I'm more concerned with the frame rate. I also tried. I downloaded Hellblade II or Hellblade. I downloaded Hellblade II. I wish I downloaded Hellblade 1 because I wanted to see, you know, this big update they did for it, and as well as Deathloop because both those games have a ray tracing mode, right? You could play Hellblade in a whole bunch of different settings. One of them was ray tracing, 4K, 30 frames, and Deathloop has a mode where it's 4K and ray tracing 30 frames. And I put on Hellblade, and I put on the ray tracing mode, and I couldn't play it for more than 5 seconds. It's just...
Why is that?
Because I can't play 30 frames anymore. It looks like a freaking slideshow. It's horrible. And same thing with Deathloop. Like, I was playing Deathloop at 60, right? Lock 60, and a couple drops here and there. It's unfortunate the PlayStation 5 doesn't support VRR yet, so I don't have to see that stuff like on the Series X. And smooth as butter, loving it. And I'm like, let me see what this ray tracing mode looks like. And for sure, you can tell it looks a lot better, just like on Hellblade. Like, yeah, I switched to it. It looks a lot better, right? But playing at 30 frames is vomit-inducing now. Like, going from 60 to 30 and trying to play like any of these games, essentially, I just can't do it. I can't. Like, within like 10 seconds, I turned it off on Deathloop. I'm like, no, I cannot play this game like this. I don't know if I'm becoming elitist or whatever, but like, I cannot deal with 30 frames. And if you're going to do ray tracing and that game's going to be 30 frames because of it, then I don't care about ray tracing then. Like, it might as well not even exist. So, yeah. So I'll be playing Halo Infinite if it does have ray tracing in the future. It'll probably be 30 frames. I don't care because I'll be playing Halo at 60 in the campaign and 120 frames on for the multiplayer.
I'll play at 30 if it adds ray tracing.
You know, one of the best things about this, our relationship that we've been doing this show for so long and talking every day and whatever, is how you gradually just moved away from the whole filmic nonsense. Like how you were all about 30 frames per second and you couldn't tell you anything about 60 frames. And then the Series X came into your life. And now you're like, oh yeah, you guys were all right. Rand, you were right. 60 frames is the way. Screw this filmic 30 frames nonsense. Like, that's one of the fondest memories I have of us doing the show, alongside you admitting that Halo's not a Lego game. And, you know, the whole Mayo, Kim Kardashian stuff is when Jez basically stomped out the filmic movement that he started, you know? So... Glitch Doctor.
Why don't you like my filmic movement, man?
Nobody liked. Nobody wanted to tell you, but we didn't. Nobody liked the filmic movement. Glitch Doctor says, "Hey guys, do you think we'll be able to play all of our games on xCloud one day, or will always be linked to the Game Pass library?" I think the plan is to have all of your games available on xCloud, not just the ones in Xbox Game Pass. I think that's what will happen. I think they're probably trying to work with the publishers to get those rights, get them written into those contracts now. I think that's kind of what's happening. So I do think at one point, whether it's a year from now or 2 years from now or whatever, any game that you purchase you'll be able to stream on xCloud, not just the games in Game Pass. And I think you would agree with me on that, right, Jez?
Yeah, I think I think the plan long term is to get all of your games into xCloud. You know, and I think like the fact that you're going to be able to stream some games is like the first step of that. But I do think in order for them to get to that place where you can stream any game you want from the cloud is going to require even more chips. It's going to require even more servers. So like it could take years. Like this chip shortage is bottlenecking a lot of this stuff right now.
Right.
So yeah, I do think that's the plan.
Ionic says I
on
miss.
that too.
He says Ionic says he misses Splinter Cell Spy versus Merc multiplayer. Yeah, we all do, man. We all miss Splinter Cell. We want it to come back. Bring back Spies versus Mercs. Dave says, what are your thoughts on how the Xbox studios that are developing new games now judge which engines to use, since Xbox has so many now, like Playground and Fable? Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I think they're just going to use the ones that they're most comfortable with, and a lot of these a lot of the devs have been using Unreal for a while, and they probably feel the most comfortable using Unreal, so that's the engines they were used. You know, Playground Games has been using Forza Tech for a bit, so they probably feel the most comfortable with that engine. You know, id will continue to use, you know, id Tech 7, right? I think it's really just going to come down to what the developers feel most comfortable using, in my opinion. I don't think there'll be like a mandate like how EA used to say, if you're making a game, you're using Frostbite, right? You remember that, Jez?
Yeah.
So,
Wasn't it recently a thing that the next Mass Effect's going back to Unreal Engine?
that was the rumor, yeah.
Yeah.
Which hopefully it does. Space Dovakin says, does Halo even need ray tracing? It looks amazing. Probably not, but they did say it would have it, at least at one point, and then they said it wouldn't be there at launch, so we'll see. Dave says, also great work, gents. You two make great content. Thank you. Well, thank you for supporting the show and for being here watching it, and reading Jez's articles or watching my videos, hitting the like button. It truly means the world, or commenting or whatever. Not even hitting the like button, just watching is always... You know that. Look at this. Mr. Gaming Forte, our buddy, says, I never believed in a feature that tanks your frame rate. Yeah, man. Playing with ray tracing on 30 frames is not the way, man. It's not the way whatsoever. By the way, Forte's been... I talked to Forte quite a bit. He's I don't know, it seems like he's been avoiding me, Jez. You know, he doesn't call, he doesn't text anymore. He doesn't DM me. He's big podcast superstar with Slow-Mo on DPS.
Oh man.
I'm just, little old Rand now. I've done his show twice now, and it feels like maybe Forte squeezed all the use out of me. Nobody talks to me anymore. Just get what they want out of Rand and then throw me in the gutter. It's fine. I'm kidding, by the way. Mike says, if they develop the engine to have textures made for native ray tracing instead of it being tacked on, then theoretically it should work. Man, a whole bunch of deleted messages there. Looks like we got some the mods doing work here. We have Space Dovakin says, isn't the filmic culture from Pegasus Nation? What's Pegasus Nation? Someone's going to have to explain that to me. What, like flying horses? Isn't a Pegasus a flying horse?
Yeah, it is.
Not really.
We're going to Greek mythology now.
I guess so. I'm not really sure what Pegasus Nation is. So, let us know in the chat. I don't know. I don't know what that is. what Pegasus Nation is. Mike says
it's a revival of the Greek pagan religion. I'm just going to assume it's that.
Oh, okay. Mike says, personally, I think it wouldn't make Xbox look good if Series X can achieve ray tracing natively on their flagship title. Series X was touted as being a machine that doesn't make compromises. Yeah, there is that too. Sometimes you come out and say things like Phil Spencer, where the Xbox One X was going to provide premium VR experiences, and then a year later, oh, no, it's not supporting VR whatsoever. So sometimes you got to be careful about what you say and what you boast, because that could come back to bite you in the ass, right?
True.
But as for me, I haven't played anything this week. I bought Kenna.
You've been reading issues.
Yes, I bought Kenna on PS5 because I wanted to play through that. But I have been reading. And we talked about it before, Wheel of Time. I bought my books back. I have the entire series now. I'm on book 7. I basically read. Let's see. I can finish one of these books in 2 to 3 days. Like Lord of Chaos, book 6. Anybody in chat knows how thick Lords of Chaos is. 1,000 pages. I finished that in 3 days. So I don't know what you call it. I have this problem, and I don't know if anybody else in the chat has this problem, where it's hard to do multiple things at once. Like, it's either I play video games and then I don't watch Netflix, or I watch Netflix and I don't play video games. And now I added books on top. It's hard for me, I guess, maybe to like, I'm going to read for a couple hours, and then I'm going to watch Netflix for a couple hours, and then I'm going to go play Xbox for a couple hours, right? For me, it always seems like it's one or the other. Like, I need to, like, all right, I'm, like, for instance, like, I've been binge watching Midnight Mass. So, like, I've been watching Midnight Mass on Netflix, it's a new show by Mike Flanagan. He's the guy who did Haunting of Bly Manor and Haunting of Hill House. So it's kind of like a spooky show. So
I don't know any of this stuff.
And like I started watching it because I like his shows, and like I didn't read my book yesterday. I don't know. I have this. I don't know what you would call that. Is that OCD, or is it like where you just focus on one thing and you don't like divvy up other things? Like, I don't know what it is, man. Like, I read this book.
It's not OCD. It's just a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. Like, when I'm gaming, like, it's just gaming. When I'm watching something on Netflix, it's just Netflix. Like, I don't, or now that I'm reading, it's just like, all I've been doing is literally reading. Like, that's it. And I know I could, like, go on and play Xbox or watch Netflix, but, like, damn, like, I don't know. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way or has the same issue that I do. So, I know you
could do that, because I feel like I don't actually complete anything. I just move from thing to thing, and then the whole day has gone by, and I feel like I haven't actually achieved anything.
Oh, so apparently Pegasus Nation is a Sony cult.
All right.
Is what people are telling me in the chat. Okay, didn't know that, but thank you. Pegasus Nation is a cult for toxic PlayStation fans. Okay. And that's what they named themselves, apparently. Forte says, excuse me? I know that Superstar Rand ain't talking mess. I emoji. Like I said before, the street goes both ways and at cross sections. Yeah, I'm just kidding around, Forte. So, yeah, probably next game I'll play is Kenna. I got True. I got, Life is Strange True Colors to play. I even got Tales of Arise. Far Cry's coming up. So I got a lot to play. It's just, I just want to finish Wheel of Time. I just want to finish a series that has been essentially something I started back in high school in like 1996 or 97. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. But with that said, if you guys are enjoying the show, hit the like button and share this out. Subscribe if you're new. Sezwalk says you hyper focus on one thing. Yeah, I probably do. I probably do hyper focus on one thing. But yeah, so let's talk about the big news. Well, we'll talk about the Perfect Dark thing in a second. Let's get some of the smaller stuff out of the way here. Something that maybe will make Jez happy, and that's a Nintendo Direct. Jez. So here's what I know about this Nintendo Direct. Okay. I didn't watch it because why would I? You didn't want me to, like the last one. The last one I watched, and then I said something on Twitter, and people were upset at me. Nintendo fans are always upset with me. Miles is always upset with me about my Nintendo takes, right?
Yes. So
I saw that the big announcements were that they're selling the Sega Genesis controller and the Nintendo 64 controller for $50 a piece because they're bringing Nintendo 64 online as a subscription within a subscription within Nintendo Online already or something.
Yeah, they're doing an add-on for Nintendo Online. So Nintendo Online gives you multiplayer and like NES and SNES games, or what you call it, SNES, I think in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's so dumb. Like, why do you call it NES but then you call it SNES when logic would dictate you call it the SNES like we did in the UK. No? Yes? No?
I guess. But I'm just saying. So if you subscribe to Nintendo Online and you want these Nintendo 64 games, you have to then subscribe to the. So it's not like just subscribing to Nintendo Online gets you everything. You got to subscribe to another service then.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And you get Sega Genesis, N64, and I don't know. I'm totally over Nintendo, man. I'm so over them. Like, I'm just so over them.
Was there anything? Excuse me. Was there anything at the show that interested you, being such a big Nintendo fan these days?
Nope. Nothing.
Nothing at all. Okay, so how do you feel about the Mario movie with Chris Pratt as the voice of Mario?
I don't care.
You don't care?
I don't care.
Okay.
Don't really rate Chris Pratt very highly. Don't really care about Mario at all. Like even when like I had my Nintendo kick, I wasn't ever really a super Mario fan. Mario was okay, but it was always, for me, it was always Super Metroid, F-Zero, Pokemon, stuff like that. But
I did see
the movie might be good. I'm sure they'll put enough money into it to make sure it's good.
Yeah, I did see the Bayonetta 3 close the show, and that it's coming next year. I do like Bayonetta, so maybe I'll actually play that on my Switch because there's no chance of that coming to any other platform. Although I will say that, at least judging from the trailer, it looked like a last gen game. But maybe that's to be expected considering what the Switch is and how powerful it is. So I thought that was funny. Dave says Pegasus Nation is a group of PlayStation influencers who peddle PlayStation propaganda. They are not all bad, but close. Well, thank you for that information. So yeah, Nintendo Direct with the Mario movie, Chris Pratt, Mario. Who's Princess Peach is the chick from The Queen's Gambit. I forget her name right now off the top of my head. Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He's playing Luigi. Jack Black is Bowser, and Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong. It seems like an interesting cast, rather. So, what else we got here? The Series X and S, they got an update. Well, it's not really just for the Series X. It's for like Xbox in general. But now you can actually use cloud gaming on your PC. I don't know if you've tried that out yet. Have you?
Yeah, I tried it out a bit. I played some Darkest Dungeon on my PC. Works really well, as you'd expect. My router in
your router.
My router.
Your
what
router?
Do you call them? Router. That's what it's called, mate.
It's called a router. It's not a router.
It's my fuck's sake. It's English, Rand, not Americanish.
Yeah, do you speak English? Most of the time you don't. In it. In it.
I don't say in it.
I know you don't say it, but I'm just saying. Okay, so your router.
My router.
Here we go with the voices again.
Cletus. Doesn't support connections from my PC for some reason. I don't know why. Like I've tried everything. I've opened all the ports. I've enabled UPnP and all that stuff you meant to enable to make sure it works. But for some reason, my router
there you go
blocks it. It just blocks it. So I haven't been able to try until I came to the UK again. But yeah, it works fine on my good old Virgin Media router.
There you go.
Now you're 1 gigabyte.
Now you're doing it right.
My router. What other American words shall I learn?
I don't know. I mean, there's always the one you're like controversy. It's like controversy. You're like, no, it's controversy.
Controversy in my router.
Yeah.
Gonna drink some moonshine.
Router.
with my router. Christ.
Now you're gonna actually start saying it the proper way. So when you say it to people over there, they're gonna be like, "Huh?"
Well, it's really annoying because Windows Central is an American-based website, right? So we have to write in American English. These are the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to spell color without the U when it should have a U in it, and I have to spell favorite without the U. You know, all those weird Americanisms. It's poison, man. Why are you guys poisoning my beautiful royal language?
Well,
for
once
man?
we beat you guys, we determined what the English language was going to be. So and how it evolved. What? You know. What do you mean?
What?
We beat you.
What?
I mean,
in football?
You know,
in cricket?
Ask Darge Knight. He knows. We won the war. You know.
What war?
We won the war.
England's never lost a war, actually.
Yeah, just the one where they lost to the U.S. and
Nah, I don't think that happened. I think like
is this a touchy subject for people in the UK? Like that they lost
I'll
America?
be completely honest with you, man.
Is it really a touchy subject?
They don't teach it in school. They don't teach it. I didn't even know that there was a civil war or whatever they call it. A war. Does it count as a civil war? I don't know. I didn't even know that there was a war between America and the UK until I was in my 20s. I didn't even know. And I certainly didn't know like America had a civil war and stuff like that. The American Revolution.
Well, you didn't know that America had a civil war?
I didn't know America had a civil war. I didn't know there was an American Revolutionary War. I didn't know anything about that. Dude, you have to appreciate, right? England's history is thousands of years old. They have to get through a lot of stuff. And I think America is a bit of a footprint. I mean, for Americans, it's their entire history. But for Britain, it's kind of like a footnote, less important than like learning about the Tudors or the Romans or the Vikings and all that other shit that went on, you know. People are asking me to say aluminium now.
Excuse me? Repeat that.
Aluminium! I know you guys call it aluminum.
Aluminum. Say that again. Dude, I wish you could see my face. This is one of the reasons like why we need like cameras, because my face.
Aluminum sounds like a child failing to say aluminium.
Aluminum.
What do you call it? Aluminum, right?
Aluminum. That's how it's spelled. Like, what? Say it again, and I want to hear it one more time because
it's spelled aluminium.
Aluminium. What?
Aluminium. Aluminium.
Oh,
and you guys, Lord. and clearly, some American hundreds of years ago was like, man, aluminium's too hard to pronounce and it's too hard to spell, so we're gonna spell it aluminum because it's American, and we're gonna pronounce router with like router because. Oh, and someone's asking you to pronounce lever because you guys say lever.
Lever.
Yeah, we call it. We say lever.
Jesus. Oh man, this is amazing.
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why we say lever. Because when there's an E, it makes the preceding E sound like a capital. So lever, you know, like Levi's jeans. You don't say Levi, do you?
I'm just.
How do you say Levi?
How did we even get to this? Like, what were we doing? Because we were talking about something. Oh, because you said router. And then we
router.
And then somehow we just dovetailed into this. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Can you not do a British accent? Can you not do a British accent? Right?
Not a good one. No. RDX on FS says Canada beat the US. We burnt the White House. And Don says the Nintendo
Canada
Direct.
Burn the White House?
No. Don says the Nintendo Direct was better than the Sony event. Gameplay for every game. And they were all this year in 2022. Xbox E3 barely edges it out, though. And Flame says, take it easy, Rand. The Brits don't know what an H is. Athiel says, Jez, you got to play more RTS games to catch up on your history. Jez, say adamantium.
Adamantium?
Okay, that's because you said it right. Let's see Drake put that in the chat. But, yeah. We gotta look out. We gotta look out for words that Jez says wrong. So that was fun though. What were we talking? Why were we talking about a router? Oh, because we were talking about
Talking
cloud
about
gaming on the
xCloud on
PC.
PC,
On
or
PC, yeah.
remote play and all that stuff.
The remote play
Router.
and the new Edge browser is now available. It's got keyboard and mouse support. And can't you actually play like Stadia from it now? Like you can play Stadia games on the Xbox right now.
I haven't tried it, but I will look into it. Oh, here we go. The burning of the White House. After defeating the American forces in the Battle of Bladensburg in August 24, 1814, British forces led by General Ross invaded the American capital of District Washington, D.C., and in doing so, Britain became the first and only country to have ever captured the United States capital in the country's history.
Yeah, but he said Canada, though.
Yeah, but it was deployed from Canada.
Oh, well. The British force.
Canadians technically had nothing to do with the burning of the White House, according to this, but there may have been Canadians in the force led by British troops. But I don't know if it says that it was actually burned down though. Oh, but Britain burned down several governmental buildings in Washington D.C.
See, RDX says Canada burnt down the first White House. Canada beat the USA in the War of 1812. Your president ran from us. Oh my God, not my president. Not my president.
Well, Canada's like Little Britain, right?
Oh, Canada was part of the UK at the time. Okay.
Why is Canada not part of the UK anymore? I thought it was. Canada has the Queen, though. Isn't Canada part of the UK? Sort of. I don't know. The Queen is the head of state in Canada, right? Is the Queen the head of state in Canada? Yeah, the head of state in Canada is the Queen. So I'm just going to go right ahead and assume that Britain owns Canada. There you go.
I'm sure somebody will say differently if that's the case, I guess.
Oh, man. It probably upset a lot of Canadians right now.
I know, right?
Man.
You think I should know this, considering some of my best friends are Canadian. Kilok says, English, French, and Spanish all come from Latin, and the way Jess says aluminum is the same as French. Spanish and French are closer to Latin.
And Europe invented science, so, aluminium is clearly the correct way to say it.
So, Jess,
goddamn Americans screwing up my language.
Let's get back on track here.
Let's get back. Now, welcome to the Xbox History Podcast.
Yeah, the Xbox History Channel, where Rand Jez don't know anything about history. RDX Sunfed says Canada goes independence in the 80s. Man, there's a lot of people saying... Yeah, well...
Oh, my God.
Xbox 2 is now banned in Canada, says Geezer Prime.
Canada is part of the Commonwealth. I don't know what the Commonwealth is exactly.
Can you say debris?
I probably should know. Debris.
Okay.
Debris. How do?
Well, Geiger Master says Jez can't say debris, but you're probably just repeating what you hear instead of just seeing it written.
I wonder if there might be accents in the UK that say debris. I don't know.
Debris.
But like a lot of people think British people say mum and mummy, but in my county we say mom like Americans, and it really confuses people from other counties when I'm saying like mom and and not mum. And like at my school, if like a kid said mum instead of mom, they'd get beaten up and called posh. And they'd be like, "Oh, he said mum. He's a mummy's boy," and stuff like this. So like accents are important in the UK. They're important. But yeah, the History Channel podcast with Jez and Rand.
Yes.
Isn't the History Channel all about like aliens in America?
It was aliens. It's always aliens. Did you see some of those leaked Halo emblems? They actually have.
No. Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, they had like the "This Is Fine" thing. The one with like Master Chief as the Rock with the sweater and the it's the aliens with the little like banshee flying in the background. There's some really cool and funny looking emblems. But let's see. So you know what? Let's just hit the big topic. Let's just hit
This is the
Perfect
big one.
Dark and Crystal Dynamics, because this is
Crystal Dynamics.
this was the big news. So the initiative took to Twitter to basically say, you know what? Should I just bring up their tweet? I might as well just read it. It's not like the initiative.
Yeah, let's read out the tweet.
It's not like.
Let's get peeps up to speed.
Let's see here. Initiative. Where are they? ITIA. Where the initiative? The initiative. Xbox. There we go. Okay. Why don't they just actually give me the initiative? Oh my god, Jez, what's going on here? Doesn't bring it up right away when I type it in. Anyways, they basically said that they're partnering with Crystal Dynamics to work on Perfect Dark, and this caused a clusterfuck, essentially. A lot of people having some glorious hot takes on the internet. Some people saying this is bad news for Perfect Dark, and more examples that Xbox doesn't know what they're doing. Other people saying perfectly fine, was in the plan from the beginning, what's going on with Square Enix and all this stuff. I want to know what you originally thought about all this, Jez, because you put out some tweets. You got some people angry.
Yeah, I did.
Judging from my DMs that I got. What do you think this really means at the end of the day? That Crystal Dynamics is coming on and they're not really outsourcing. It sounds like this is going to be co-developed. One of Crystal Dynamics' next games. In similar way to how Xbox works like with World's Edge, who oversees Age of Empires, and Relic is building H4, and how 343 oversaw development of Halo Wars 2, but actually Creative Assembly did the work on the game. How do you feel about all this?
Well, at first I was kind of like, oh god, here we go. Here's Microsoft struggling to build it internally, and they've got to partner with another studio. But like, after my initial reaction, I sort of took a step back and really thought about it. And it was kind of like, well, actually, they did this with Relic and for Age of Empires 4. They've Splash Damage worked on Gears as well. And, it's not unheard of, that Microsoft would do this. And if you look further afield, like in the age of, work from home and hybrid working and stuff, the whole idea of big studios collaborating is going to get, it's going to become the norm. Even at the AAA level, it's definitely going to become the norm. So I think my initial reaction was completely premature, or maybe a little bit immature even. It's just kind of me like, and my gut reaction to anything is with Microsoft is like, oh god, here we go, something bad's happening. And also it was like, was it announced on a Friday? I think
it was announced on Thursday after Nintendo Direct. I don't know if that means bad news. Some people say, any announcement on a Friday is bad news or whatever, but
I think it's just the way it was announced was strange. And it's something that doesn't regularly happen where they announce with a huge amount of fanfare what partner studios they're working with. And also what made me react that way is because honestly, I'm not a fan of Crystal Dynamics.
So for you, you saw that and you're like, I don't like their work. I probably won't like Perfect Dark then, huh?
Yeah, I was thinking like, man, I don't want Tomb Raider with a Perfect Dark skin. Is that what I was literally thinking? Because I don't really like Tomb Raider. I don't like. It's a very pretty game. It looks stunning, like especially Rise of the Tomb Raider. And I couldn't even get through Shadow of the Tomb Raider, whatever it's called. But that was made by Eidos anyway, I think. But it would have been like the same engine or technology. But I digress. Talking about Rise of the Tomb Raider here, it was absolutely a gorgeous and stunning game. It looked really, really good. But it played like crap. I'm sorry. And the writing was terrible. I think Lara's characterization made no sense. And the sort of her obsession with artifacts was out of sync with the overarching narrative. There was just a bunch of things that really irritated me about the way Tomb Raider was put forward. I couldn't get into it. And I know a lot of people love it, and I don't blame anyone for loving it. I just personally didn't rate that game very well. So I was thinking I don't want it to be like that. And I thought Tomb Raider has like terrible gunplay. Like the guns just feel like wet noodles in that game, and there's just so many little things that I didn't enjoy about it. So I was just thinking like, man, if Perfect Dark's gonna be just like Tomb Raider, then I'm not really super into that idea. And then also you've got Avengers as well. Avengers is like they took the world's biggest IP, the world's most prolific IP, one of the biggest franchises of all time, and a movie that's got like box office records and all that stuff, and they screwed it up. Like, if there's no bigger indictment of Crystal Dynamics' ability, it's the Avengers game. So I was thinking of it in that context as well.
Well, to touch on that, how much of Avengers' failures Square Enix like essentially demanding the game be a live service? Because because I played through Avengers, right, and I got the gameplay running on screen here because I thought it was appropriate considering Crystal Dynamics is the big news of the day, right? Like, I really like Crystal Dynamics. I love the Tomb Raider games. Shadow of the Tomb Raider I thought was really good, but that was mostly done by Eidos Montreal, not Crystal Dynamics. They did some things, but mostly that game was Eidos Montreal. Avengers is good when it's a singular focused, like, single player game. Where that game failed, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people had problems with, is when it opened up to be kind of that multiplayer parts of it that they kind of threw into the campaign that ended up being like what you would do afterwards. So like, I like that focused single player narrative that like part of the single player was, but when they widened open to like what the multiplayer stuff they were going to do into the campaign, it's where it fell apart. And I kind of feel like that's on Square Enix, because I think Square Enix demanded that game be a live service. So I don't really view that as too big of an issue on Crystal Dynamics, but it is their game after all. Their name's on the cover. They're the developer. So it doesn't really matter what people think. They only say, I didn't like Avengers. In fact, I hated Avengers, and now they're working on Perfect Dark, so will I like Perfect Dark, right? That's kind of the way I looked at Avengers. Like, it's like half really good and then half just awful. So,
yeah, I mean, I should go back and give it another try with a single player mindset, maybe. I don't know. And like Zero Myth in chat says, I don't think you should jump to conclusions about Perfect Dark. I agree. I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions about it, and nobody should really. And like I tweeted in my follow-up tweet, the only thing that matters is the finished product. That is the only thing that matters at the end of the day. And like, if they deliver a great game, then all the speculation and all the concern, that won't matter, because at the end of the day, all they need to do is deliver a banger.
No. Actually, if it's a great game, you know what people are going to say. I can already think like these people. They're going to say, if the game's really good, right? They're going to say it's really good because Xbox didn't make it. Crystal Dynamics made it.
Or what if it's bad?
Then if it's bad, then it's Xbox doesn't know what they're doing and the initiative is a terrible studio. See? Then
it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah, of course. That's the whole point. You're never gonna win. You're never gonna win with those people.
They should partner with the studio that made Soda Drinker Pro for Perfect Dark. Fuck it, just why not? But anyway, like, who cares what they think?
Exactly.
Who cares
exactly.
what there's no way they'll ever switch. There's no way they'll ever give Xbox their due. There's no way, because these people are grifters and they're dishonest, and they've got a platform to push, and they've got like ego to stroke and stuff like that, and they don't live in the real world. They lie to themselves and they lie to their followers, and that's the reality of things. This is a podcast for people who like to bask in the glory of reality, where we celebrate the good, criticize the bad. That's how honest people work. That's how honest people function. And unfortunately, the social media era has given us a platform for dishonest people to function. Such as Americans who say router instead of ruler.
Are we going back to this, Jez? Just remember, you guys lost the war.
No, we're not.
You lost the war. Ask Starge Knight about it.
Maybe we let you in.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, you guys engaged in unfair psychological warfare by dumping all the tea. You know, how can anyone possibly focus when such a crime is committed? But anyway, let's not go back to the History Channel podcast. We are gonna stay on topic this time.
Stay on target. Stay on target.
Yeah, stay on target. But I know we're a Star Wars podcast now.
Yes, we are.
We need to talk about Star Wars as well in a bit. But yeah, I think it was a knee-jerk reaction, and it is sort of like it comes back to this whole ideology that Xbox can't deliver. You know, it's sort of, that's where it comes from. It's like, oh great, here we go. Here's the bad news. You know, everyone's just always waiting for bad news with Xbox. Even Xbox fans, like, we're just waiting for bad news when it comes to Xbox. But I believe that Microsoft has trained us to feel that way to some degree. Like they give us these slick CGI trailers, and then the end product doesn't match up to the CGI trailer whatsoever. I'm like, you know, I see the CGI trailer for State of Decay 3, for example. Mm-hmm. I'm not expecting Undead Labs to be able to pull off something that looks that good. I'm just not. You know, because after Recore and after Crackdown and some of the other games that had these slick CGI trailers, Phantom Dust. Do you remember Phantom Dust trailer?
Of course, I remember Phantom Dust. I was excited because I was like, "Really? They're bringing back Phantom Dust?" And then they're like, "Nah, just the OG Phantom Dust with the HD graphics." And I'm like, "Really, fam? Come on now, come on."
Yeah. Well, they were working on it, but even the project they're working on just didn't look that good. You know, I've just been trained to expect disappointment from Microsoft, you know, and maybe that's a me problem to some degree, because as thinking logically about it, today's Microsoft is completely different to the Xbox One Microsoft. It's completely different. And we're still waiting for them to deliver on some of the Xbox Game Studios titles. We're still waiting to see Hellblade II. We're still waiting to see what State of Decay 3 will look like. We're still waiting to see, you know, Perfect Dark. And we're still waiting to see Fable. We're still waiting to see that they can deliver outside of Forza, you know, and Halo multiplayer. We're still waiting to see if they can deliver outside of that. And, you know, Gears has been consistently decent, but, you know, we're waiting to see if they can, you know, surprise us and give us something good. And I think it's so easy to fall on the negative side. You know, it is easy.
So basically what you're saying is, like, you were waiting for the other shoe to drop and it dropped. Yeah. And you're like, oh, okay. So this isn't as big as I thought it was going to be. This is a signal that there's a problem or whatever. But it sounds like after you took some time thinking about it, you essentially changed your way of thinking.
Yeah, and also, like, I spoke after, like, I thought about it, and I was thinking, well, the only thing that matters is the end product, and I thought it was like a weird announcement, especially considering, like, that's a competing publisher studio at the end of the day.
Yeah, and
aren't they working on fixing the Avengers? Like, what the hell? It just felt weird to me. And then I spoke to some people, you know, some sources and stuff, and people who understand the developer culture in California and stuff, and they're saying, like, this is like standard practice, you know, to partner with established studios. And what was said to me was the initiative is designed to bring the production value. They're designed to refine the animations and to bring the cinematic quality and to bring the AAA writing and to bring the direction that we want out of a studio that's fully funded. And then, like, Crystal Dynamics will bring, like, the sort of, I don't know what you call it, like the muscle, basically. Okay. They'll bring the developer muscle in, the bodies and the artists and all the creators and the coders and all that, you know, all that skill to build the game based on the initiative's vision. Like, the initiative is obviously leading development here. So I think, like, it's like Dub just said in chat, I feel like co-developed is a broad term, and without seeing the contract, it's crazy to me people think the initiative isn't in charge of what's being made. And exactly, like, the initiative is totally in the driver's seat here, and it's going to be Daryl Gallagher's vision entirely, and it's going to be, like, their production values, their state-of-the-art motion capture studio, their state-of-the-art animators and combat designers and all that sort of stuff. And then Crystal Dynamics is going to bring the muscle. So I think that's the way it's going to play out. And, you know, and my reaction being negative, that's totally my fault. And I'll accept that. That was, like, unnecessary of me. And the only thing that matters at the end of the day is the finished product. So
yeah.
wait and sees again, but we're still in that situation of wait and see.
See,
Maybe they announced it too early, man.
I think people look up to you a lot to get a measured reaction about what Xbox is doing. And because you can already get like the trolls response and the other side of it from, everywhere on the internet, right? So they're looking for, hey, what is an Xbox guy? Jez Corden, who is Xbox through and through, like, what is his reasons measured approach? And they saw your tweet and they were like, what? You kind of more tweeted out from an emotional perspective than, an analytical
I was
one.
I tweeted out from the perspective of someone who didn't like Tomb Raider and
but you weren't the only one. Like Fonzarelli, good buddy of mine, he immediately had a really negative reaction to it, and I talked to him about it and told him what was going on, and he was like, "Oh, okay." Because I think a lot of people, I think what it is here is a combination of a couple things. One, the announcement itself is sort of weird. You normally don't see what you would consider outsourcing, and this isn't really outsourcing, but like normally studios don't make announcements like this, like, hey, we're co-developing, stuff like that. And then normally it's not a studio like Crystal Dynamics, right? It's usually like Halo is being made by 343, but they also have other studios helping. But 343 is the big one. And then all the other studios helping are smaller. Same thing with like Naughty Dog. You had Last of Us Part 2. Naughty Dog, it's Naughty Dog's game, it's Naughty Dog's vision. They did all the work. Basically what Jez just described that the initiative is going to be doing, but they still had 14 studios work on the game because you need help. AAA development right now is so expensive and takes so long. They need so many manpower just to throw at it that like every single AAA game has multiple studios working on it. You ever watch a Ubisoft game? Like 10 Ubisoft studios will be working on, Far Cry 6. So I think...
How many... Didn't they say like 800 people worked on Division 2 or something?
Yeah, some ridiculous. I think it was like 1,000 something. But basically, multiple studios working together under one vision is essentially how all this works. Now, I think in this case, I also think some of the shock was the initiative was claimed to be a quadruple A developer. And this is where I think a lot of people... And maybe even where like someone like myself is to blame for this is a lot of Xbox fans on Twitter, a lot of Xbox fans on YouTube, and I'll group myself into it because I'm an Xbox content creator, hyped up the initiative. Like when Phil announced they were being built in 2018 and that Daryl Gallagher was coming over, we expected big things from them. And then we saw the job listings about how they were going to be a quadruple A developer, how they were going to be in Sony Santa Monica. And then you started seeing the people they were poaching from Sony Santa Monica and Rockstar and Naughty Dog. And you were like, oh my God, they're assembling this world-class talent. And you thought they were going to build up to something like 200 employees to make this huge quadruple A game, right? Because we didn't know any better. We didn't know the specifics of it. We didn't know what the plan was. So, people on Twitter hype it up. Xbox YouTubers hype it up. And I'm as much to blame for that as anybody else. I certainly do I hype up Xbox. I try to explain to people what they're doing. So I'll take my blame on that. The media started hyping up the initiative as a quadruple A studio. And with that labeling comes expectations, right? And then the announcement comes that this quadruple A studio is co-developing the game with Crystal Dynamics, and people scratch their head and be like, I don't understand that. How does a quadruple A studio need help? But everybody forgets that they talked about this in one of their videos where they wanted to remain small and agile, and that was going to be a core strength of theirs. So after everybody hyped up the initiative as a quadruple A studio, and essentially Xbox's answer to Naughty Dog, and talked about like their job hirings and stuff, because I remember people making videos about every single job hiring that they were going on, right? Then they came out and said, no, we're going to be small and agile, but people really overlooked that. So to me, I think it's just people hyping up something they didn't know what it was going to be, and that quadruple A sort of tag just being fresh in people's minds. So when they see that and they see we need Crystal Dynamics, people are like, okay, well, something's got to be wrong. When in reality, both me and you know, when it comes to Microsoft, quadruple A is essentially just a reference to money and budget, right? Like quadruple A means.
I think that it was just the recruiter.
Well, it was also the recruiter trying to like, hey, we're trying to poach people, come work at this huge studio, but like it also has to do with how much money they're willing to spend on something. And I actually look at this. See, this is my first thought when I saw this announcement was like, I had a couple thoughts. I was like, okay, they must really believe in Perfect Dark because they built the studio from the ground up in Santa Monica, which is expensive, right? They're hiring all these people from all these great studios, which is expensive. And now you're essentially paying Square Enix a premium to get Crystal Dynamics, a world-class developer, to build this game. So you're talking about major money being spent on Perfect Dark. Like, there is a lot of money behind this game. So I'm like, okay, they believe in this game because they're spending the money that it takes to make this to be something like the Initiative Stev where they want to make new and innovative games, right? And they talked about how it's first person, and I've heard like John Wick kind of thrown around with the movement and stuff like that. So when I saw the announcement, I'm like, they must really be behind this thing. And my second thought was, did Xbox just save Crystal Dynamics from having huge layoffs? Because I know a lot of people will focus on the negative of this whole situation, because that's what they do. Negativity sells. Here on YouTube, everywhere on Twitter. Like, for whatever reason, people are more inclined to click on a negative video than a positive one. They're more inclined to click on a negative tweet than a positive one. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely a psychological thing. And people realize, like, algorithms are built on engagement. And for some reason, people engage more on negative content than they do positive content. So you're always going to have people running with, like, this is a bad thing for Xbox, right? But the story here to me is, what's up with Square Enix? Because Crystal Dynamics is a big world-class AAA developer owned by Square Enix. And you would figure that they would be working on something new for them. Like, you always got to look at opportunity cost. Like, we're doing a podcast right now, but is there something better I could be doing with my time? Or if I'm playing a video game, I'm not really making any money. Is there something better I could be doing with my time than what I'm currently doing, right? So when you delve into that, like, what is the opportunity cost for Square Enix on this? You realize that the Crystal Dynamics co-developing a game with Xbox is worth more to Square Enix than Crystal Dynamics making a brand new game for them, which is strange. But then you start to think to yourself, is it really that strange? Because from all reports, Avengers bombed. They lost a lot of money on Avengers. And it looks like the new Guardians of the Galaxy game by Eidos Montreal is probably not going to set the world on fire either. It's probably also going to bomb. So they might be losing a lot of money. And there might have been layoffs. We talked about Bethesda before, the 1-year anniversary going on right now from their purchase. And there was talks that, a studio like Arcane Lyon or Arcane Austin, after playing Deathloop, I understand why Bethesda sold that game to PlayStation. Because, and you talked about in the last show, it's not really marketable. Probably not a lot of people going to buy that. And Prey and Dishonored didn't set the commercial fires, like people didn't go out in droves to buy those games. And there's always the thought, like, if Xbox didn't come in and buy Bethesda, could we have seen major layoffs in Bethesda studios like Arcane? So one of my first thoughts was, did Xbox just save Crystal Dynamics from having major layoffs? And I don't know, because when I look at it, I think of, this totally makes sense. This whole partnership, you have a small, innovative team, a small team that's going to remain agile, 60 people, 70 people, I actually think. They're not building the AAA game in a good enough time, right? So they needed to reach out to somebody. And Daryl Gallagher is literally the head of the studio, and he was the studio head of Crystal Dynamics when they rebooted Tomb Raider. He was a studio head for like 8 or 9 years. He knows everybody over there. he brought a lot of the talent that was at Crystal Dynamics over to work on the game. In fact, I believe the game director of Rise of the Tomb Raider is also the game director here on Perfect Dark, if I'm not mistaken. So there's that connection there, and I really think this is Daryl Gallagher led, and it could have been the plan all along from the very beginning. Like, we don't know when this contract was signed or anything like that. And so I think this is great for the game because it shows there's a lot of money being thrown behind it. I think this was basically a Daryl Gallagher-led initiative, no pun intended, and it was the plan all along to have somebody co-develop Perfect Dark, considering what the initiative wants to be as a studio. And I think this could essentially be used as a soft onboarding for an eventual acquisition of Crystal Dynamics in the future. Like, there's a part of me that wonders how much Square. There's a part of me that really wonders if Square is second guessing what to do, or it doesn't have an idea of what to do with Crystal Dynamics. They're an expensive studio. Well, they're very, like, I think they have 3 studios and they're like 400 employees, so very expensive. Avengers didn't do well. It doesn't seem like Square's doing right by their Western developers. In fact, a few years ago, they kicked IO Interactive to the curb. You know, so there's a part of me that thinks that they don't know what to do with Crystal Dynamics. And this is going to be used as sort of a soft onboarding for an eventual acquisition of Crystal Dynamics from Xbox, for Xbox. And that the initiative will essentially build and they'll start up everything to do with Perfect Dark. Crystal Dynamics will, like you said, build out the rest of it. And then Crystal Dynamics will take over the franchise. And the initiative will then go on to initiate a brand new franchise. So for me,
I like this take. That's a good take. That's some good analysis, Rand.
Yeah, so for me, like, I mean, look, I'm not saying I know anything. I do talk to people like Jez does. This was my first take from seeing all this. Was what's going on with Square? Why aren't they having Crystal Dynamics work on something for them? And I would not be surprised if eventually, when all this is said and done, that Xbox just purchases Crystal Dynamics from Square and takes them off their hands, and just Square wipes their hands essentially from, their Western publishing division.
What if they just YOLO it, man, and they buy Crystal Dynamics, IDOS, and they buy Deus Ex, and they buy Hitman, and they buy Tomb Raider, and they just buy their entire Western publishing division.
I mean,
and just YOLO it, man. And they're like, you know what, Arcane, maybe you and IDOS can team up on Deus Ex right there. You know,
I mean, it's something to think about.
Here's the Hitman IP, IO. And by the way, we're buying you as well.
I mean, it's something to think about. And we know that Crystal Dynamics is also working on a new Tomb Raider. So I feel like with this being a Daryl Gallagher-led initiative and him being knowing that studio in and out, we know Xbox wants to make more acquisitions. I would not be surprised if this is how this all ends up. They just end up purchasing Crystal Dynamics from Square, and then maybe buying the Tomb Raider IP, so then the other game that they're working on then just becomes an Xbox exclusive, and they have Tomb Raider. And you always talk about, Jez, how Xbox lacks nostalgia in a lot of their things. Tomb Raider is a very loved IP. So that could, I mean, who knows? That's just what I was thinking when all this happened. But we got some comments here. Michael, he says, it's unusual considering it's a AAA dev partnering with another AAA dev, and one that isn't internal. Most people understand when a publisher partners with a third-party AAA dev, though. Yeah, it was the name that really took people by surprise, and I think was also the idea that the initiative was supposed to be a quadruple A studio, and not everybody kind of overhyping what the studio was and not realizing that they had, they were going to remain small and agile and not really get to the levels of like 250 employees like Naughty Dog. So there's that whole thing going on there. So I really do think it's all about Daryl Gallagher and his connections, and this was essentially probably the plan from the very beginning. And if in a year or two we get an announcement that Xbox buys Crystal Dynamics, then you can say you heard it here on September 25th, 2021 first, because I don't know. That's kind of the way I feel. I feel a lot better about Perfect Dark now than I did before, honestly.
I think that's a great take, and I think like it aligns with Microsoft's mentality for purchasing studios too. It really aligns with their mentality because it's like if you bought Crystal Dynamics, you've got Daryl Gallagher who's involved in the studio already. The culture fits. Microsoft worked with Crystal Dynamics before directly with Xbox Global Publishing for Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Microsoft was involved in some of the tech there and stuff. They have intimate knowledge of working with that studio, and that is one way Microsoft approaches their acquisitions. It's like do we know this studio? Do we have connections to this studio? Like they've always had close connections and close ties to Bethesda and Todd Howard and the team there. So for them, it was a culture. The cultures aligned because obviously for Microsoft, money is no object. The thing that bottlenecks Microsoft's acquisitions is does the culture align? And I think with Crystal Dynamics, when you factor in Daryl Gallagher and you factor in the past work they've done together in a collaborative capacity, I'd say hell yeah, the culture aligns. So I think you're right, Rand. I think that's a really good take, and it could form a good prediction. And maybe one day we'll come back to this podcast and be like, oh wow, Rand is clairvoyant. Yeah. Rand out clairvoyant, and maybe you won't be chopped liver anymore.
Maybe not. It'll still be like Jez Corden's podcast says. But Sergeant Rake says, Rand, you're generally amazing at what you do. Oh, thanks, dude. You and Jez have the best Xbox banter in the YouTube space, bar none. Don't sell yourself short, buddy. Thank you. That's high praise because there are a lot of great Xbox podcasts out there. Brandon says, finally caught the bit live. Love the show. Well, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Let's see what else we got here. John G says, I likes Rand takes hella better than Jez's. Sorry, bud. You got to go with the big picture guy. Hey, everybody's always allowed to think emotionally here and there. Jez usually has some pretty good takes when it comes to a lot of stuff. He let the emotions cloud him on this one. Oh, maybe Jez is right. Maybe Jez's initial take was right. I don't know. That was just what I think is happening or could happen. But I'm sure people will say that Rand is damage controlling because I put out a video essentially saying the same thing. And there's, of course, people in there like, oh, you're damage controlling and you're this and that and you're spinning it. And I'm just like, really? Like, none of us really know what's going on. Like, you can show me tweets from, somebody on Twitter saying, like, this is what's really happening. Like, no, they don't know. They don't know any more than I know. Or do I? Or do I know better? So, like, the only thing that matters at the end of the day, like Jez said, is the final product. If Perfect Dark is great, it doesn't really matter who developed it, as long as the game is great. If it's bad, obviously that's going to be a problem. So it doesn't really matter that Crystal Dynamics is co-developing it. What matters is the game going to be good. So Tony Art says, what if Microsoft acquired Crystal Dynamics and will announce it when Perfect Dark has a release date? Square Enix wanted to sell Western Studios at some point. It's definitely possible. I mean, if the Avengers bomb was as big as people say it was, they may just realize that they don't need the Western Studios. So...
And is this a way for us to one day get Soul Reaver again?
I don't know. Maybe. Michael's.
Do you think like they'd keep Crystal Dynamics separate, or just sort of like link the initiative closely up with the Crystal Dynamics?
See, there's also maybe a hint right in the name, the Initiative. We always wondered that is a weird name for the studio. So. What if the Initiative was kind of like an incubation team where
take the initiative?
So they take the initiative and the initiative of a game. They, like you said, they build the building blocks, how Perfect Dark looks, how it sounds, how it's going to feel to play, what the story is, like everything about it, right? And then they partner with Crystal Dynamics and they do the grunt work and boom, Perfect Dark is reimagined for a new generation, right? And then the Initiative's like, our work here is done. Perfect Dark is now going to be continued on. Perfect Dark 2 is going to be made by Crystal Dynamics. The Initiative being that small team, is now going to work on a new project, and they incubate something brand new. That's not Perfect Dark. That's a brand new franchise for Xbox. So, to my mind, and I don't know if this is right. Like, I don't know, people from Xbox might be listening to this and be like, Rand, you're crazy. But what if the initiative was built specifically to make new franchises or to bring back older franchises from Xbox in a new era? So you start with Perfect Dark, and then what if they're for the next game, just as an example, they're the ones who start up Banjo. So they do everything for Banjo, and they co-develop, and then they have a co-develop. Like, you know, I'm just using Banjo as an example. But my point is, like, what if they're just using the initiative as an incubation studio to bring back to essentially kickstart big new franchises for Xbox moving forward? And that's it. So like, the initiative's not going to be stuck making Perfect Dark forever. They do Perfect Dark, and then somebody else continues on, and their next game is a new franchise that essentially maybe they hand off to the Coalition, and then they make and then they initiate, a new friend. I don't know. It was just a thought I was thinking. I don't know if that jives with anybody in chat or what you think, Jez, but.
No, I think that's a really smart take. You know, like, if they're like small and agile, and they want to be like, they want to initiate the creation of IP and sort of act as the producers, the channel that gets it up to that next level of quality, and they become like a creative force to get things up to that sort of I don't know what you call it, that sort of aspirational level of quality that Naughty Dog exhibits, that Xbox Game Studios has frankly only sort of approached. Like, I feel like Gears of War approaches the Naughty Dog level of quality, but it's not quite there yet, you know. So maybe the initiative can be the studio that puts the finishing touches on, you know, and really goes deep on examining how to get things up that extra to that next extra level. I don't know. It's interesting to speculate and think about. And you know, people in chat, Rand, are calling you Rand Al 1000 IQ right now.
Yeah, we'll see if it pans out. Otherwise, they'll be Randall Nobody again, right? So, I don't know. It was just, I always thought the initiative was such a weird name, but like, I don't.
Yeah, it is.
And then, like, I don't know. It would be cool if that was the case, because then it's like their whole goal is to just make new franchises for Xbox, you know. So we'll see how that turns out.
It does bug me though, like how Square Enix has squandered its Western division. Like, Outriders pretty much had the whole month to itself. It had the whole narrative to itself. It had this potential. It had way more potential than the Avengers did as a game. Like, not as an IP, but as a game. Like, it was so much more fun to play, and it had like this really great hook, and you know, it felt good to play, to me at least, and had some really cool abilities. And they squandered it. And like, I actually wrote an editorial last spring where I was like, the thing that will kill Outriders is Square Enix. Like, they won't give it the support it needs to like keep that momentum. They won't fix the bugs and the issues. Square Enix's back end had so many issues on launch day. Nobody could play co-op in a game designed for co-op. It was Square Enix that killed that game, you know. And you know, it just makes me wonder, you know, if Crystal Dynamics could find their potential in a studio with a publisher that gives a crap, because I don't think Square Enix give a crap. I really don't.
Here's the thing. What if the industry has changed to the point where their Western division, there's just not enough money in it for them to keep the studios going, like in the same way where the industry changed under Bethesda, and you saw Bethesda try to change with it by making, you know, an online Fallout, bringing that sort of thing to Wolfenstein when nobody was asking for it, right? We saw the industry change during the Xbox One era, and you had a Bethesda who was like, save single-player campaign, one E3, and the next E3, all their games are multiplayer-related in some manner. And I think they're really good at making single-player games, but they're not really good at making multiplayer ones. And I think that also is part of what led to the acquisition, because I think they realized that the industry shifted, and they weren't going to be able to shift along with it.
Yeah.
Right? And I also feel that could...
Sorry, go on.
Well, I also feel that could be tangible or applicable to Square Enix right now. What if like the same thing happened where like the industry changed so much and now you can't do a Tomb Raider from Crystal Dynamics without it being some sort of live service? Well, because the studios are so expensive and the games cost so much to make that you can't make, Rise of the Tomb Raider 3. That you need some sort of big IP to strap onto it and a live service and microtransactions to make all that money. And they just realized that it's not really feasible anymore. And one of the reasons why Crystal Dynamics is working on Perfect Dark, because they don't know what to do for a new project yet. Because it's like if Avengers bombed as bad as they people say it did, it's like they might be worried about the future of that studio and what they could make. Because, like, I sort of think that might be applicable in this sense. I mean, I don't know. Like,
you can see a lot of studios have struggled with this. Even like Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Even as long back as that. That was like what, 2015, 2016? Deus Ex Mankind.
The last one was like 2016. Yeah.
Yeah. That had some like tacked on bullshit multiplayer mode with loot boxes. Like who in the world asked for a Deus Ex to have some kind of loot box mode? Literally nobody. But Square Enix, like, existentially was struggling with the concept of a single player game. And EA too, like they did it with Dead Space. Dead Space 2 had a multiplayer mode, and then Dead Space 3 had full-blown co-op, like in a horror game. It didn't make any sense. And then Visceral got turned into a Battlefield studio. While they tried to turn Battlefield into a Call of Duty style IP for a little while. And a lot of studios have wrestled with this, and they've gone back and forward on it. And I think you're completely right. And I think it's not just applicable to Square Enix. I think there's a lot of studios wrestling with this right now. I think Take-Two Interactive, for example, they're looking at the success with Grand Theft Auto Online, and they're looking at the success with Red Dead Online to a lesser extent. It's nowhere near as big as GTA Online, but it does have its regular players and regular updates and stuff. They're looking at that stuff and thinking like, how in the hell can we justify investing all this risk in a new GTA when we make so much money on this already? Like, why even bother? They're thinking about that right now, but they're also thinking, well, where the hell do we go from here? The guy who created Grand Theft Auto, or the lead dev, I can't remember his name. He left Take-Two.
Dan Houser.
Yeah, Dan Houser left them because obviously they weren't letting him make those kind of games anymore. And why were they not letting him make them? It's because they're too expensive to make. Like you have to invest all that money up front, and then you don't get the results for like several years. It's become a situation where it's hard to justify some of that stuff. Microsoft can justify it as a platform holder. Sony can justify it as a platform holder because they have a whole ecosystem of hardware, accessories, and like the 30% cut from other studios on top of it. That for Microsoft, the whole mentality is all we need to do is attract people to our platform. So like for them, there is a mentality that single player games can still work to some degree. When you're selling a service, some of those games can exist with a little bit more freedom. And I think like when Jedi Fallen Order joined EA Play or whatever it's called, I think like EA were like, oh wow, this actually like boosted our subscriber numbers for EA Play. Maybe like we can actually make single player games make a bit more sense now, which is why they're doing Dead Space and why they're doing Jedi Fallen Order, because a sequel to that, because they can long tail that content with their service stuff, So I think like the industry is evolving, and for EA, it's fine for EA because EA has enough games and enough IP that they can justify making a service. How can Take-Two make a Take-Two play? They have like no games. They have no games to put in there. What did they put in there? Like Grand Theft Auto 1 through 5, like all the old ones. It's like they don't have the same frequency of games to put into a live service. I think like Ubisoft could probably do a live service as well, and they are to some degree. But that again, they have nowhere near as much backlog or they don't have as many benefits as EA does. So for like EA, Sony, Microsoft, they can justify the single player games with their live services and with Sony and Microsoft with their hardware. But for Take-Two and Square Enix and some of these other publishers, they're in a rough position right now. Square Enix on the Japanese side, they have a ton of really popular mobile games like Final Fantasy Brave X or whatever it's called, and they've got like the Nier Automata gacha game and all these mobile games. So like the Japanese side of Square Enix is really healthy. Like they've got Final Fantasy 14, which is just prints money right now, and I've got all the mobile games based on Final Fantasy and a bunch of other stuff. But their Western division, like you say, is struggling and doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're a platform holder, because they followed the traditional model, which no longer works for, I think, for some of these these publishers who don't have a huge amount of IP to put into a live service. So yeah, I think the industry is evolving in certain ways that creates a buyer's market. It creates a situation where Sony and Microsoft can buy all these studios and publishers. And I think a lot of the speculation about Take-Two being acquired, it comes from a place of cold hard logic. It's like you say, like where do they go from here? Are they just an NBA 2K GTA Online company now? Like what is some of this? What are they doing? What are they going to do? Where do they go from here? Take-Two they tried to acquire Codemasters and failed.
Yeah, Take-Two. They sure did.
And then they bought a mobile studio. Take-Two did recently. You also saw EA acquire that mobile studio from Warner Brothers because they're trying to expand their mobile footprint as well. Because that's where the cash cow is right now. It's in free-to-play service games. You're going to see a lot more of these free-to-play service games from these publishers, or they get acquired, or they start selling some of their studios off to platform holders like Sony and Microsoft. And I think like your analysis on Crystal Dynamics getting acquired by Microsoft, I think like I will not be surprised if that happens now. I think you're completely right about that. It's interesting, man. It's all fun and games, boy.
Yeah. Michael says, to be fair, I think it also comes from history of Xbox making questionable choices in the past that go against the industry norm. Yeah, I mean, the Xbox One generation is going to haunt them for a long, long time. Yeah. The Bay Area says, hey, Rand, I was thinking the same thing. Haters are going to say if Perfect Dark scores well, it's because of Crystal Dynamics, and if it scores bad, it's because of Xbox. Yep. I know how these people think. I know how, they want to spin stuff. So it's like, because if I wanted to do that, that's what I would say. And you already see it, like Psychonauts 2. Like, Psychonauts 2 scored extremely well. Everybody was like, it's a multiplat. Who cares? But you guarantee if Psychonauts 2 was a 60, they'd be like, another Xbox studio that can't make a game. Like, it's the tired old narrative, and they've been doing it for a while, and it's just the goalposts will just keep on getting moved further and further back. It's kind of sad that how I can basically predict and know what they're going to say. Mike says, like, if they had ID Software help them out, I think their action would have been different. You see, I don't know about that, Mike. I don't know about, because I did see some people say this on Twitter, Jez, that why don't you just have an Xbox studio co-develop it? Like Mike's saying here, what if they co-developed with ID, id Software, but like, I want id to work on a new game. I don't want id to like, so Initiative's working on Perfect Dark, and here comes id Software, and their next game is Perfect Dark. So that ties up like two studios. So yeah, I'm actually happy it's Crystal Dynamics, and id Software is going to do whatever they want. So like, because I did see people say that. I was just like, why didn't you just get help from one of your other studios? It's like, no, I want those other 23 studios to be working on 23 different games. I don't want them to double up, essentially. So at least that's my take on that. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's not a good idea to double up on id. And I think like what this shows is that Microsoft is willing to invest. They're willing to give money. They're willing to throw their money around. Like, this is something that really we should be celebrating. But Microsoft can just be like, instead of tying up id, let's just throw some money at Square Enix for Crystal Dynamics and stuff. I think that's the way it is. It's interesting. It's fun.
Let's see what else. Mike says Initiative brings back Phantom Dust. I mean, it's definitely possible. You never know. Alpaw says, thank you for saying what I couldn't on Twitter. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed my take on it, and I do hope my take is the right take, and let's see how that all pans out. One Bad Mother says, quote, predictions, end quote. What else we got here? Gamer by Choice says, it is funny that people make assumptions like they know game development. I agree with you guys, this may not be a big issue. 3-Bit and Chris Cornell might be great resources to ask. Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing some developers on social media say, like, this is normal. Like, so, I don't know. Like, I think people freaking out have it the wrong way. Like, I expect Xbox haters to hate no matter what. No matter what Xbox does. Like, they'll always find the negative in something. Like, you're never going to win those people over. So, they just constantly make fools of themselves. So, I'm kind of looking at it, I don't know, like maybe I look at it from a cold analytical reason because, you know, I will say I got DMs and text messages like when this happened, a buddy of mine texted me and his response was, Xbox is so fucking incompetent, I can't stand them, right? To the news. And I even got like other DMs being like, I can't believe this. The initiative is horrible. How could they not make their own game? Like, people, like I'm saying, like, the whole quadruple A thing really has a lot to do here. Overhyping the studio, not really understanding game development. I mean, and I'm not someone that understands game development. Like, I'm not a game developer. I'm just a dude on YouTube. Like, I speak my mind and my opinion, and hopefully I kind of scratch the surface on what's going on here. But I think people just, they get emotional about all this stuff and they don't think logically. So, you know, you see all these takes and they all just come from that place. So, you know, it's just weird to me sometimes when you first think, you know, when your first like initial reaction is like one that is like pure or how you think this will make Xbox look. That's another one. Man, how is this going to make Xbox look to these guys on Twitter? I'm like, you shouldn't worry about that. Who cares how Xbox looks like to people on Twitter? Twitter is a small echo chamber. Regardless of whatever you think, it is an extremely small echo chamber. None of this stuff really reaches out into the entire market. It's just, and that's something I gotta constantly tell myself all the time. But some people live in this small echo chamber, so all they see is the negativity or the positivity, and they think, you know, this is either something really bad because everybody I know is talking about it, so that must be the only thing that matters, and that must be how everybody else thinks, when it's really not. We've talked about this before about echo chambers, right? So
yeah, and like it's funny because, you know, you say people look up and read my tweets and stuff like that, and when I said like this doesn't fill me with confidence, I was talking about, you know, the fact that I don't like Crystal Dynamics, and people would thought like I was, you know, criticizing the initiative or whatever. But it's you know, we love games at the end of the day. People are just passionate about it, and no matter from what angle you're coming at it from. So
yeah, Mike says Take-Two seems like a stretch. They're publicly traded. A publisher like Valve or Epic would make more sense. I mean, Valve gets you Steam and the PC market, so like, you know, I don't know. Xbox, I mean, Microsoft rarely ever buys publicly traded companies, so. And I think a lot of people would look at Take-Two and be like, you need a lot of money for that. And what do you really get? You get Grand Theft Auto and NBA. What else? Like, couldn't you like spend a significantly less amount of money on that and get somebody else that would bring you more? But again, against the allure of Grand Theft Auto, right? Something that
I wouldn't buy them. I wouldn't buy Take-Two.
No,
I wouldn't buy them. Let Sony have them. Let
Really?
Sony have Take-Two. Yeah, seriously.
Okay.
Right, you seem shocked about that. Are you shocked?
Sony having complete control of Grand Theft Auto, I think, is a bad thing. Because I think Grand Theft Auto transcends Grand Theft Auto is the one game that not only the hardcore love but the casuals love, and I think that game.
I think that's good for competition, because Microsoft has Minecraft. I think like if Sony has Grand Theft Auto, and I know this is not going to be a popular take, that keeps things balanced. You know,
who cares
I think
about? This isn't Thanos. This isn't Avengers and Thanos, Jazz, where everything's perfectly balanced as all things should be.
I'm talking about America's bloody competition laws and the EU's competition laws. If Microsoft bought Take-Two and got Grand Theft Auto, that might get regulators like, oh, that's a bit.
Why would it?
Because why wouldn't it?
I mean,
they've got like basically a monopoly on IP.
But Xbox, yeah, but like you have to look at the market positions. Xbox is nowhere even close to Sony's market share, even with someone like Take-Two. Like I don't understand how anybody could even scream monopoly. Like Xbox is literally the third place console. So I don't understand how they could buy hypothetically Take-Two and suddenly regulators are like, nope, that's a monopoly, when they literally let Sony get away with owning 95% of the anime market. An actual monopoly.
They don't own the market of anime, do they?
I mean,
they just own the streaming services.
They basically own the entire thing. I'm just saying, like, they bought Take-Two and they have Grand Theft Auto now. Like, what does Xbox's market share go up? Of maybe 5%, maybe at most 10%. But even still, you have Nintendo and PlayStation. It's not like Xbox has 70% of the market right now, and then they would have 90% of the market with this. It's like they have whatever percent of the market now, and it would go up a little bit. I don't think they'd have to worry about that.
Well, even still, I think it'd be a waste of money.
I mean, maybe it would be. I don't know. But it's not my money. It's Microsoft's.
I would rather them buy other studios than Take-Two.
Sure. But I mean, Grand Theft Auto is that one game that everybody knows. You know, so it's like...
Yeah, but it only exists in Grand Theft Auto Online format. And Grand Theft Auto Online is going to be multi-platform forever. Even if Sony bought Grand Theft Auto Online would stay multi-platform, because the whole business model of Grand Theft Auto Online is that it's multi-platform. If you make that game exclusive, it doesn't work anymore. So
maybe
will we ever get a Grand Theft Auto 6? I mean, it's been rumored, but is it going to be as good without Dan Houser?
Sure. I mean, that's the question. Do they even care about a single player? I don't know.
Look at Take-Two's share price. It's just gone down and down and down since the start of the year, because investors are like, where the hell does Take-Two go from here? Since Dan Houser left, the share price has just constantly been sliding, gradually, because nobody knows what the hell Take-Two's future looks like. I don't think they're a publisher you want to buy, frankly.
I mean, you could be 100% right, and you know, maybe people looked into their financials. Like, we had heard that weren't there rumors that like that Chinese Tencent was going to make a big splash, and there was rumors that they might look into acquiring Take-Two and stuff, like, and maybe they backed away because of it. Who knows?
No. What happened with Tencent is the Chinese regulator came down on gaming companies with a big mallet. Like that's something the Chinese government is like a wild card that nobody can predict. So like the Chinese government was just like, we want to stop Tencent from growing too big. It's just like, yeah.
And Microsoft just breathed a huge sigh of relief. Xbox.
Yeah.
Mattis Morales says, so a support studio like Spheresoft. I don't know what the question he's asking here, but like them buying like a support studio, I'm not really sure. But thanks for the support. Unless you have an idea what he means, Jez, because I really don't.
It's like maybe Microsoft should buy a support studio to make sure they have them on hand, ready on hand, like how like Splash Damage got like sort of taken from Microsoft in a way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I see the mentality.
Yeah, so do I. Space says, I would really love Xbox acquiring Crystal Dynamics. Avengers were far from their best game, but games like Tomb Raider were great. Mr. Irishman says, what are the chances this means they're buying Square? I mean, the whole company? Probably not Pi. I'm sure Microsoft would be interested in if Square was selling, just like Sony would probably be interested, but I think it's more the West. I don't know. I think it's more the Western companies that Microsoft would be interested in. The friendly neighborhood Blue Shell says, I'd rather Microsoft buy Sega than Take-Two, to be honest. I mean, everybody has their preferences on who they want. And Mike says, Xbox roughly is 23% of the market. If any publisher's monopoly, it's Embracer Group. And Embracer Group every single week keeps on adding and adding on to their onto their studio list. So it's
I have no idea.
Who will Embracer buy next week? Tune in to find out. And is it a developer you've actually ever heard of? Probably not. Right?
What is a deal? I have no idea what that deal is.
Hey, you guys hit the like button if you're enjoying the show. It would really help us out. Thank you guys so much. You know what, Jez? Quantic Dream is supposedly rumors working on a Star Wars game. If Quantic Dream is working on a Star Wars game, then I see no reason why Xbox can't get a Star Wars game, Jez.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Does Xbox want a Star Wars game?
I'm just saying, if they wanted one, it definitely seems like Lucas and Marvel and Disney are basically licensing out to anybody.
I think there is a mentality in Microsoft that they don't want licensed IP too much because they lose control of them. You know, the thing is, when you're building a streaming service, you know, you want to have full blown control of the games that are going in there. And I think if Microsoft doesn't seem to want to be in the business of building up other people's IP for them to eventually get taken away. You know, we saw like, for example, Disney had a big deal with Netflix to get all of their shows onto Netflix. And then one day Disney was like, oh, actually, why are we doing this with Netflix when we can just do it ourselves? And they were just like, they pulled all of their stuff out of Netflix and made their own service, which blew up to hundreds of millions of subscribers in a year. So, you know, it's sort of like, it's kind of, I could see Microsoft's mentality for being nervous to do that. Because also, you have to remember that Microsoft is this huge company, and they probably have to pay a premium for IP that other companies don't have to pay. I think, like, when Disney's looking to license stuff out, they're kind of like, you know what, we'll charge this indie dev this much money, but Microsoft can afford this much money because they're Microsoft, and they can afford billions and trillions of dollars. So I think, like, but that's not the reality. You know, Xbox still has a budget and stuff like that. And then Microsoft's probably thinking, can we actually monetize this, you know, and to make back what our licensing fees are? And then, like, do they want royalties on the streaming version? Will they eventually sue us to take the streaming version of that game away? Like, there's a whole load of complexities when it comes to buying those kind of licenses. So I think for some companies, it's easier than others. And I think Microsoft has added layers of complexity when it comes to licensing Star Wars IP, for example. Does that mean they won't do it? No. It does not mean they definitely won't do it. I'm sure there is a deal that exists, but I think it's just way more complicated for Microsoft than it is some other studios. I can see it being easier for a studio like Quantic Dream to get the Star Wars IP in a deal that's favorable for them than it is for Microsoft to get a deal that's favorable for them. Personally,
yeah, you know, speaking of like Quantic Dream itself, I really like Detroit Become Human, so I would like to see what they could do with the Star Wars game, honestly. So hopefully the rumor's true, but yeah,
Heavy Rain, worst game I've ever played.
Heavy Rain, I didn't really like Heavy Rain, but I played it way after it came out, so it was kind of
Jason.
Yeah, there's some pretty bad stuff there. But
Heavy Rain, oh, so bad.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be it for the show. If you guys have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. I want to thank everybody for being here on Saturday. You guys are amazing as always. Support's always incredible. Me and Jez hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoyed Jez's takes, Jez's podcast as usual. I'm just a second man here. I'm the one. It's on my channel, but this is Jez's show for sure. So, yeah. It'll be up on iTunes and all those good places if you want to listen to the podcast on Spotify or any of those. It'll be up there as soon as Jez is able to get it up there. You're usually pretty quick with getting up there, and we like giving that option to our listeners. So not everybody wants to listen on YouTube, and not everybody can be live here on YouTube with us. So if you prefer to listen to it on iTunes, then wherever you're listening to, we only care about you of people listening to it and liking the show. Hell, if you dislike the show, hit the dislike button or whatever, or write a good or bad review on iTunes, because I definitely seen my fair share of bad reviews on YouTube. I've even seen people meshing me like, you know what, that Jez guy's amazing, but the Randall Thor brings it down a notch. I was gonna rate it 5, but I'm gonna rate it a 1. So I've actually seen some reviews on that on iTunes like that.
So you just gotta ignore these people.
Oh, I know, it doesn't bother me. I'm just saying, the only thing that matters is people like the show. I don't care where people listen to it. We're blessed that as many people tune into the show every week that they do, and listen to us talk about routers and
router
and whatever other weird terms that Jez says that is wrong. So RDX Son of Fett says Xbox should buy the Black Myth Wukong devs. Maybe they should. That game does look kind of cool. Question mark says, thank you for the awesome podcast. You are on fire. Well, thank you for the support. Alexander says, boo, Jez takes this week. Yeah, I guess they didn't like your takes this week, Jez. Bub77 says, if Microsoft acquired Sega, I don't know how to say this guy's name. Iso Aqua's wish from 20 years ago would be essentially overgranted. He wanted the Dreamcast games to run natively on Xbox. The one and only Special Nick says, send everyone their way. I guess Nick and Xbox Era are doing a live show right after us. So you can go pester Nick about acquisitions and rumor mills and stuff.
And shrimp.
And shrimp as well. Arafat says, did you read Deltor Quest? It was my favorite childhood anime based on a book. I really want to read it. No, I've actually never heard of that. I've never read it before. GKN Co. says, what Microsoft should do is get Warner Brothers games and use studios like Monolith to make Star Wars games like The Mandalorian, Game Science, and then Crystal Dynamics to bring back Legacy of Kain. I would like to see Legacy of Kain come back, personally. Drawn TJ says, hi, Rand and Jez. Hope you're having a great weekend. I am. I'm going to be finishing Midnight Mass on Netflix, which I recommend. And I'll be reading more of Book 7 of The Wheel of the Time, A Crown of Swords. Although I am in the stretch here where the books start to drag a bit. Book 7, 8, 9 and 10 kind of drag a little bit when it starts picking up around book 11 and 12. And then supposedly 13 and 14 are incredible. But books 1 to 6 are really awesome. But now I'm just in the... What?
Sorry. I was going to say, what's Midnight Mass? What is that?
Midnight Mass is, like I said, Mike Flanagan's the guy who made Haunting of Bly Manor and Haunting of Hill House and Doctor Sleep. It's spooky show.
Is Doctor Sleep any good?
Yeah, I like Doctor Sleep, but I like the book. I read Stephen King stuff, so I appreciate it.
Books, man.
I like reading, man. I read a lot of books. Let's see, what else we got here?
Why read when you can watch Kardashians, man?
Yeah, why read when you can watch garbage like that? George wants to know, what are your predictions for the Xbox show at TGS this week, Jez?
I think it's going to be a rehash of E3. I think there's not going to be a huge amount of interesting stuff there. They're going to talk about there might be some indie stuff we see from Japanese creators. And they might talk about xCloud for Japan and the way it's expanding, or partnerships with telecom providers, something like that. I don't think there's going to be any major news. I mean, Microsoft has said that themselves, so temper expectations for TGS, but there might be something if you're interested, I guess, in the Japanese stuff. So
yeah, that's all wants to know, Jez. Why is there a Blinks the Game placeholder Twitter account? Are they making a new game like with Fable? Because they recently brought it to Game Pass as well. So what do you think?
I highly doubt we'll see Blinks ever again, personally.
Yeah, I doubt too. I mean, can you imagine if they brought Blinks back before Banjo? There'd be riots in the street.
Well, It'd be funny if they announced a new Blinks, but it was actually just a troll, and then he announced Banjo right after it. I think that'd be fun.
Lydia says Sony patched the C-bomb issue for the PS4 this week. Is Xbox fixing the internet DRM issue a priority for Microsoft? Yeah, so good on PlayStation for fixing that issue. Do I see Xbox fixing the internet DRM issue? Is that a priority? I don't think it's a priority for them.
This is what Microsoft will do, right? If there ever comes a day, decades in the future, where Microsoft decides, you know what, we don't want an Xbox anymore, we're going to shut it all down, they will turn off the DRM then. That's what they did with Groove Music. With Groove Music, everyone who'd bought MP3s for Groove Music and then they shut it down, they turned off the DRM and said, download the MP3s because they're going to be removed at this date. That's what they'll do. And like, if they ever shut down movies and TV, they'll do a deal with a competing service and be like, well, all your licenses are going to move over to iTunes or something like that. That's what they'll do. Microsoft won't just make all your purchases, suddenly gone. They're not going to do that, So it's a non-issue. It really is a non-issue. Microsoft would there'd be such a massive backlash if Microsoft just turned off everyone's stuff that it wouldn't be worth the PR fallout. Nobody would trust them again with a digital product. And since Microsoft's entire business model is cloud and digital products, they wouldn't do it. So when Microsoft does, if they ever do shut down Xbox in 2070, if humanity even makes it to 2070, they'll disable the DRM and they'll let you play the 70-year-old games on whatever system you've still got. It's a non-issue, man. It really is a non-issue.
Yeah. Glitch Doctor says, quote, Jez Corden is the host of the show. The other guy is just Rand Thor XP. Appreciate you guys. Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Not a Jerry, or I'm just going to say not. He says, the person in front of me at the Chick-fil-A drive-thru paid for my order, so I'll send the money your way. Oh, thank you. I wonder if Jez has ever tried Chick-fil-A, and if either of you guys like pickles on your chicken sandwich. No pickles for me, sure. And I actually do like Chick-fil-A's chicken sandwich. I think it's the best one out of the ones I've tried, like Wendy's and McDonald's, Burger King's, KFC's. I think theirs is the best, but I don't like pickles. Jez, have you ever tried Chick-fil-A? And do you like pickles?
We don't have it. We don't have Chick-fil-A.
You gotta get it here when you come next time.
Yeah. If that ever happens again. But one thing we have started seeing in the UK is Taco Bell. A lot of British cities now have Taco Bell. That's the first that I've seen. So we are getting some more American stuff apparently. I had Wendy's for the first time in Canada a couple of years ago. I thought that was very nice. Wendy's was quite nice.
Wendy's.
Or was it Denny's? Was it Denny's or Wendy's? I can't remember. It was some American chain.
Right.
But yeah, I will try Chick-fil-A one day.
Rob says Microsoft should partner with Bandai Namco now that the final update of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is coming. A great fighting game studio is now up for grabs. Interesting. And who do you think is the final DLC character for Smash, Jez? I guess they're revealing that October 5th. Could it be the one and only Master Chief as the last character in Smash?
I don't think, unless Microsoft paid a lot of money or whatever. Destin Leguero is in chat. Shout out to Destin.
Shout out to Destin. Awesome. Yeah, Destin.
I can't see it being Master Chief unless Microsoft paid a huge amount of money, because that is marketing. It'd be really cool for Halo Infinite or whatever, but I just can't see it. I think I could be completely wrong. I was super wrong about Banjo, and I was pretty wrong. I think I didn't believe Minecraft Steve was going to be a thing either. But I think the last character will be some Nintendo character, some fan favorite Nintendo character. If it's the last one, I can't see them doing a third party for the last one. But I could be completely wrong. Nintendo works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, it would be kind of cool if Chief was in Smash. Totally would. Did you see what is it? Banjo Kazooie is going to be on the Nintendo 64 thing.
Yeah, I did see that. A lot of people were mad about that. I saw.
Why would
'Cause they
anybody
were
be
like,
mad?
Why? Well, they're like, why does Microsoft give Nintendo all their stuff, but Nintendo doesn't give us anything, kind of thing.
I mean, sure, but I guess that's how people just. It's like number one. I would say, who cares about Banjo Kazooie in 2021? But then my mentions would be flooded.
Rand!
I know, right? My mentions would be flooded, being like, "How dare you, Banjo Kazooie?" It's like, okay. And just to reiterate, I want Banjo to come back for all the listeners of the show and everybody who watches my videos and follows me on Twitter. If you're a fan of Banjo, I want Banjo to come back for you. Just know that if it ever does, I won't care. So
Destin's asking us about tacos. I think he popped up because we started talking about tacos. You know, I've only had one taco in my entire life at the E3 place, the little kiosk at E3. That's the only taco I've ever had in my life. Is that bad?
I mean, tacos are pretty good depending on where you get them from.
They're not super popular here, and I guess it's just by virtue of geography. But we do have one Mexican chain in the UK, or Tex-Mex, I think it's called. But like, I was told their tacos are bad, so maybe we can't get genuine tacos in the UK. Everyone's saying I'm pronouncing taco wrong.
Well, I mean,
How do you pronounce taco?
Yeah. Taco.
Taco.
Taco Bell. Taco. Yeah.
Taco.
I mean,
is it taco? Taco sounds like how a southerner would say taco.
You saying it wrong. Like, you say everything wrong.
A Londoner say bath instead of bath, right? So they would say taco. So in my accent, that the spelling of taco looks like taco.
Someone says, "Oh my god," he says it like he says taco like they make fun of it in Family Guy.
Oh my god, man! Well, I'll pronounce. It sounds so Londoner to call it taco. I'm going to have a bath with my taco.
You know, I said to you before the show, hey, this is going to be a short podcast because we don't have much to talk about, and we're like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Not bad.
I don't know what it is. Like, literally, there was only really Perfect Dark to talk about for the most part is the big thing. And somehow we ended up doing a 2 hour, 45-minute podcast because they were making fun of how Jez says words, like his rooter and controversy, like all the other. You missed some good stuff, Destin. You missed some good stuff. Jez just mispronouncing words.
We're talking about the history of America for a while. The history.
Jez lost the war. He's been
Rand.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you like my secret aspiration podcast. Like, I really like the podcast we do.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. In fact, it's one of my favorite projects. But there is a podcast I want to do that's like a secret podcast.
Oh, okay. What is it?
I would love to do a UFO podcast.
A UFO podcast? Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like, speaking about the History Channel and ancient aliens, I am secretly really into UFOs and cryptozoology, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, all that stuff. I love that stuff, man. If I could find someone out there to do a cryptozoology UFO podcast with me, I would do it, man. I'd do it.
So put out the call on Twitter. Chat. Jez is looking for a co-host for a UFO podcast.
Yeah, I want to do a UFO podcast. Just stick it on Spotify, and the truth is out there, man. The truth is out there, Rand. Do you like UFOs? You ever seen a UFO, Rand?
I mean, I love UFOs, man. I'm a believer. I want to believe. X-Files, great show. Love that show. I believe in the unknown, Jez. I'm down for some UFOs and some aliens.
Oh man, Destin says he's down to make a UFO podcast.
There you go.
I'll DM you, man. Let's do this.
Windows Central and IGN coming together. Amazing.
Oh man. Out there.
Jedi Knight Peter says, I think they're allowing friend invites for Halo Infinite Flight next week so everyone can get on there. Highly recommend. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I did see that they were supposed to be like opening it up to more people like next week. So let's see what else we got here. Arafat says, Jez, let's be honest, the internet making fun of PlayStation for $70, but Microsoft will charge $70 for their games. Face wants to know how long we think this generation will last. I think with the chip shortages, 7-8 years. 8 years, maybe. 2027, 2028. I don't think it's going to be a short gen. I mean, maybe they even could go longer. So I'm going to say 7 or 8 years with the possibility 9. But what do you think, Jez? How long do you think this generation is going to last, considering it just started, really? We're not even done with the first year.
Yeah, I think the chip shortage could make it play it longer again. Like maybe it will go as long as like the 360 gen went. How long was that? That was a long one.
Well, it depends. Xbox was 2005 to 2013, so 8 years. But for PlayStation, that would have been 7 years then. So yeah, 7, 8, 9.
Sounds about 7, 8 years with a refresh in the middle, maybe.
Potentially, yeah, we could see a refresh. I think we will.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Iron Lords podcast. Proud of my guys, Lord Jez and Rand, one of the very best and one of my favorite Xbox podcasts. Xbox 2 salute from the one and only Lord Cognito. So we have a lot of people listening. The ILP is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. Lord Cognito is a great friend. Talk to him all the time. They are on the cusp of 10,000 subs on YouTube. So if you're listening, if you're still here listening and you haven't given them a chance or listened to their show, head on over to Iron Lords Podcast and click that sub button, because they put on one of the most entertaining podcasts out there on YouTube, period, whether it's about gaming or anything else. From Cognito to Lord Addict to King David, Lord Sovereign, and the guests they always have. That is a much-watched show. And I know you love Iron Lords as much as I do, Jez. So
I love doing Iron Lords. Iron Lords is the best podcast to guest on. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Really, really fun.
Although every time I come on now, I barely get an introduction from Cog. Like, everybody else gets this royal introduction, and I'm just, hey, Rand's here. He's on Jez's podcast. What's going on, buddy? And it's just like, oh, thanks. You know?
Oh, man.
Let's see what else we got here. Any more questions?
And drop Destin a sub too on YouTube. Destin's awesome.
Destin's got great content. He talks about literally everything: Xbox, PlayStation, and then he triggers the fanboys on Twitter, and on YouTube. So it's always fun. It's always fun to see Destin go at it with the fanboys and just piss them off. I live for that stuff. I'll just see a tweet like, what was this one yesterday about? I'm seeing a lot of comments about how they're buying Xbox games on PC or something like that, and it was just hilarious. But it's like, yeah, that's, you're showing Microsoft by buying those games on PC, right? So, let's see. El Paul says, I agree with your take 101%. My question no one asked, why mention the co-development on that day? Who was that announcement for? Yeah, that's the other part of that announcement. It's, why on that Thursday? Why at that point in time? I don't really know, and I don't think Jez would really know. Could be timing. Could be Crystal Dynamics is maybe hiring for those positions now, and that needed to come out. I don't really know, so I can only really speculate on why they wanted to do it that day. So I don't know. Maybe I'll ask around. Maybe Jez, you can ask around too to find out why they decided to announce it at that point in time. So yeah, Destin says he's done with the fanboys, and yeah, I'm done as well. I didn't even know what Pegasus Nation was until everybody started talking about it in this show. And now we know what Pegasus Nation is, unfortunately. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We really appreciate everyone being here. I think we had well over 1,000 people, which is great for a Saturday. It's not normally the day we do the show. And there's other great shows on during the same time, like Gaz's Game On Daily show and the Xbox Era going on right after us. So hopefully we'll be back on Friday. I don't think Jez isn't flying, and as far as I know, my schedule's clear. So we'll be back on Friday with another episode of the podcast, and who knows what we'll be talking about next week. So you got anything to say before we get out of here, Jez?
Nah, man. Just take care, everybody, and see you next time.
Yeah. Keep it gaming, guys, and we'll see you later.